check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
If it bleeds, we can podcast it. That was such a fucking...
That was disaster.
Do you remember? I mean, we haven't covered.
Come in, John.
That was offensive.
We haven't covered.
That was offensive to German people. They could be offended.
I was doing warm-ups.
I know he's Austrian.
And then I lost it immediately. I don't know if you remember this because this is many, many years ago. This is 8 years ago now. But James Cameron, one of the first directors we covered on this podcast, we talked a lot of Arnold then.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since we maybe talked this seriously about Arnold.
Yeah.
But my attempts at doing an Arnold impression were so bad in that era that I reclaimed it and said, I'm actually not doing an Arnold impression. It's a different character that I've made up named Yarnold.
Yeah.
But you also said you spent the last 8 years practicing for this episode.
Right. After
no one can ding me.
Shout out Rachel Yarnold Sanders. It's her middle name.
Right. I forgot.
You borrowed her middle name on the Terminator episode to create the new character of Yarnold.
Hey, Yarnold.
To explain why you have such a pathetic
I forgot all
Schwarzenegger impression.
So that's my dead accurate Yarnold impression.
It doesn't say, hey, Arnold. It says, he, Yarnold.
Say get to the chopper. Come on.
Okay. Get to the podcast. I
No,
can't do
what?
it. Get to the chopper.
You sound like Dracula.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
Blah, blah, blah. You do it. You try one.
No, I mean, let me think.
Oh, see, it's so easy.
I never said it was.
I ain't got time to podcast.
Wait, what the hell was that?
I like that. That's good.
That was Jesse.
Nicholson. No, yeah, it's Jesse.
Ain't got time to podcast. See, I could do an okay Jesse.
Ain't got time. Jesse the Body Ventura.
It's so hard to find Arnold Schwarzenegger's filmography on his Wikipedia page because of his tenure as the governor of California. I don't know if you guys are aware, but he was the leader of the biggest state in the country for 8 years.
You're mistaken. That was the premise of a high-concept mid-2000s comedy. That was obviously the premise of a movie.
Dylan Marn routine about like, do you know how he got famous? And by lifting things. Like, there's a heavy thing. We wouldn't want to lift it. And he's like, look how much I lift it up all the time. Lift it over and over and over again. And we were like, yeah, you're the guy we want to like run our like water supply and like taxes.
I'm so happy to be talking about Arnold again.
Yeah, how do you feel about Arnold, John? Do you like Arnold?
I just listened to his entire audiobook and I know everything about him already. So it's not like almost nothing new.
Did you watch the Netflix doc?
No, I didn't. I started it and
it's good shit.
Ooh, okay. I'm so like bathed in this dude's life. I like talk about him like 3 hours a week, more or less.
yes. Right. As a host of Action Boys, a host of Action Boys, a garbage man. Or no, garbage mans are the listeners.
Janitors.
Janitors
are the listeners. We treat them so well over there.
But no, there's something like, even if, look, I perhaps know less about Arnold than you do, but I consider myself a minor Arnold scholar. I watched this documentary, and it's not that there were like a ton of revelations that blew my mind, but it is fascinating to watch him just kind of like speak with perspective and candor on living the most insane life imaginable.
Right.
Like, you're making the joke version of it. That's like, that's embarrassing for us as a people that he became governor.
I mean, that's Marn's joke, but like
he's really Forrest Gump.
Yes.
He's just one of those dudes who keeps just being like, oh, and then he's just like, oh, if he chose whatever he wanted to do in life, he would have been absolutely the best at it. That is objectively true. The dude is broken in a specific way.
Correct.
Luckily, he chose something that lined up with his insane genetics.
Yes.
And his ability to handle hormones.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say injections. God bless him. I mean, good for him.
Yeah.
The fact that he became governor, was the governor, had like kind of a mixed tenure as governor,
Republican governor of California for a decade?
Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
an extra
a baker's decade.
A baker's decade.
Comes out of that, does some more movies. He still will do a movie now, but like it's getting fewer and far between. And then like my boss came over a couple years ago and it's like, isn't it weird that like the face of moderate Republicans in America is Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes.
Because he's like, I think Donald Trump is bad. Like, it's like, wow, this guy's a real fucking genius.
He continues to be like the thinking man's Mitt Romney. right?
It's bananas, but if they changed the law, he would be president.
Every single
In a
time
heart fucking
there's
beat,
some
yeah.
headline I read of like Arnold releases scathing new video, I'm like, okay. And then I watch it and I'm like, he raises some good points and he sold them well. He actually is the one guy from this side of the party line who kind of is making some sense and is speaking to sanity.
Because he's a historian as well,
Yeah.
and his dad was a Nazi.
Yes.
And he has intense regret, and he knows what that did to his dad and what it did
gets
to
it.
his home country.
Yep.
And so he's like, guys, hey, we'll keep the taxes low, but
Right.
we gotta save the planet
This
and
way-
like love each other.
Lies are ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are here, obviously, not to talk about, his political career or even
no,
his
but
later career.
We do have to talk about Predator, the Kennedy family of governors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean, right. The Kennedy family of movies. Right. And a political film in its way, sort of. I can grasp at the politics of this era of movie.
It's one of the things I find interesting about this movie.
It's just also just when I'm considering Schwarzenegger and I'm watching this movie, which is about a man, an impossibly large man,
Yes.
fighting a reggae lizard warrior
Yes.
in a fictional jungle
Yes.
while covered in mud
Right.
and surviving a nuclear explosion. And I'm like, yeah, this guy, became like a sort of like noted civic figure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude,
it's just funny to think about.
You just ripped out that log line. Like, that sounded so fucking awesome.
It sounded so
That
good.
This movie you could watch as like a dead-brained child and be like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I watched this last night for like the 400th time in my life, and I was like, man, I'm getting so much out of this. Like,
So much.
I'm like, male friendship.
Yeah.
Yep.
But also just
Yep,
the
Chris
McTiernan
Blenz,
thing
Magic
of,
hour
like,
helicopters.
This is like such unshowy, sophisticated filmmaking.
Yes.
Like you put aside the special effects and all the like the memeable moments and all the things that people like to focus on, and you're just like, this movie has astonishingly little dialogue, considering that almost every line is like eminently quotable.
You forget how many references from society
Yes,
are
come
in
from this movie.
Yeah.
But then there are also like multiple 10+ minute stretches where no one talks.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is a movie where every single story beat is like communicated so clearly and effortlessly.
I kept saying I felt so old watching this movie because it was like, they don't do this in pictures anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it was like all my brain kept saying, like these wide jungle shots with our heroes walking through it. You're like, motherfucker. There is not a piece of civilization there.
No, this is a real, we didn't know how good we had it movie. And as David said right before we start recording, just one of the most watchable movies ever.
Just the easiest assignment is watching Predator.
Yeah. Oh, hands down. Predator is the origin story of Action Boys. It's the second episode of High and Mighty is Ben Rogers and Ryan Stanger coming on. This going on like 9 years ago. The second episode of High and Mighty. The first was Jake and Amir, the guys who picked my podcast up.
Right.
The second was...
And the topic of that episode was letting me do a podcast?
Yeah, it was about launching a podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
And then literally one night at a bar at Birds, Rogers and I were talking. We kind of knew Ryan Stanger. And he comes over and I'm like, I'm thinking of launching a podcast where I just like have celebrities come on and talk about my favorite movies. And he's like, oh yeah. I'm like, I'd love to have Seth Rogen on and talk about Predator. And in that moment, Rogers and I, who've known each other way longer, we start talking Predator and Stanger starts chiming in. We all had just watched If It Bleeds on YouTube, the like hour-long special features thing. So we went off and we talked for 90 minutes at Birds, and I was like, okay, guys, I think you guys are going to come on my podcast.
Can we replicate this again on Mike?
We did it like 6 days later and fucked it up. And it was not as interesting as the bar convo. But then that launched us into, now I've been doing, there's like 400 episodes of that show. And that was a spin-off from High and Mighty.
So you never did a proper Predator episode on Action Boys?
No, we have not. But in this next
it was sort of the backdoor pilot.
Now you're McDonald's. Like now it's the one you won't do.
Well, we are saving like, because the like 8 awesome ones we did on High and Mighty in an hour and 30.
Yeah.
We need to give like the 3.5 hour spectrum treatment from us. Yeah.
I mean, you even talked about If It Bleeds. Like I was watching this and I was reading the McTiernan commentary. The Blu-ray allows you to do the commentary subtitles.
Whoa.
Because I was like, I want to hear McTiernan's insights, but I also don't want to not hear the Silvestri score or the line readings.
I listened to the theme from Silvestri, the whole walk from the G train to here.
How fucking
on
hard
repeat.
this score goes.
Yeah.
I stupidly don't think of it immediately in my like, what are like the obvious big Silvestri scores?
That's fair because you think of Back to the Future, and now I guess you think of the Avengers, right? Those
Avenger
are
and the Zemeckis
Forrest
stuff.
Gump,
Right,
right? Yeah,
right.
Roger.
But this is like a
Rabbit.
kitchen sink score, right? There's like
Yes,
so many
everything.
instruments. You're like, what the fuck? Is that a didgeridoo and like the djembe at the same time?
Also,
and there's a horn, maybe?
I think Silvestri says that like in a movie that is an hour
Just
47.
vuvuzelas. Yeah, movie is an hour 45 basically.
It's like an hour 47. I think he said there's an hour 35 of music. He's like, this is a movie that almost never doesn't have music because a lot of it is dialogueless and the music is what's like carrying you along. I don't know if you've seen RoboDoc.
I have not yet. That's on my fucking queue. I can't wait.
Just reading all the things that McTiernan was saying about this, reading the research that JJ did, digging in some other things. I'm like, this is a movie that needs a 9-hour documentary.
100%. I would gladly sit in a chair and talk for hours into a camera for
I
the sake of
remember
this doc.
watching If It Bleeds a billion times when I was 15 years old, but I'm like, that's not enough. And the other thing that's fascinating about this movie, similar to RoboCop, is like this movie was like forged in like trauma and pain and stuff. Like everyone is losing their mind making this movie. And then also everyone's account of what went down fights everyone else's
right,
account.
everyone else is like, fuck that guy. No, this is what happened.
Right.
Is there a movie set in the jungle where the behind the scenes story is like, yeah, it's a really chill time. Like, plumbing was easy. Nobody got sick.
That's a good
Temperature was normal. It didn't run long. We didn't go over the budget. There was no weird weather. Like it's always like every director is like, I thought I could make the movie in the jungle that didn't go wrong. And I was a fool. Like just like everyone else, I got fucked by the jungle.
I want to do a movie so bad. I say this all the time where the boom op is in like cut off jeans, no shirt and a bandana.
Yeah, right.
Like I just want to be in one of those like Coppola jungles, like where I'm crawling in the mud and it's like my fucking leg is still hurting from yesterday. Everyone's like, just shoot. Like I want to be on like one super toxic, weird, out of country. And now that's like Eastern European, like Expendables. You got Steven Seagal.
Right,
Like
Moldova. Yeah.
right.
And what's it called when you can't take someone out of the state, like a no extraction law? Whatever. I forget.
Look,
no extradition. Yeah.
There's already so much to talk about. We're like setting up like
what
15
is this
different
podcast?
threads.
By
This
the way?
podcast, that's what I'm trying to do now, is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers. Like, for example, having Predator be your second film.
Yeah.
Insane.
Sure.
This is one of the biggest leaps from first movie to second movie I feel like we have ever covered on the show, because his first movie is not very good.
I have never seen Nomads.
No,
hadn't seen it until we did it on the show, and I was expecting, like, even if it wasn't a secret, like hidden gem, I was like, I'm gonna see the thing that made them hire him for Predator. And I watched it and I was like, they had a much better eye than I did, or they got really fucking lucky.
So you didn't see Cocaine? Because Cocaine is the thing that got everyone hired on this fucking movie, dude. Holy shit.
You see Cocaine, like hair in the lens? They're like flecks. They're like rocks in the lens.
Yeah, everyone's got the fucking Neil Young Last Waltz booger.
Nomads does feel cocaine-y as well.
Yeah, Nomads is a little coked up, but Nomads is also just like, I don't know, like, what is anyone doing here? Like, it does have a bit of a mood.
It does.
But it has a noir-y LA mood. It doesn't have a jungle action movie mood.
It doesn't have, let's gather 8 of the craziest fucking people in Hollywood and trap them in a jungle
so
together.
The thing with Nomads is, let me finish the introduction.
Yes,
Directors who have massive success, like making Predators at their second film. Early on in their career, to give it a series of blank checks, make whatever crazy passion products they want, and sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they get to the chopper, baby. This is a mini-series on the films of John McTiernan. It's called Pod Hard with a Venge Cast.
Oh, that's a good one.
Boom.
I like that.
Our guests, they return to the show for, I believe, the 5th time.
Do I have to look this
Oh
up?
shit, yeah, because I didn't.
I think
I
this
can't
is
remember. I have goldfish
5.
brain.
From High and Mighty, from Action Boys, Jon Gabrus.
This is your 5th appearance, my friend.
Holy
Congratulations.
shit.
Talk about
Oh, this
Sometimes-
jacket fits great. Thank you, Hosley.
Of course, you're so welcome. I'm glad it fits.
Congratulations.
54R. Perfect.
Should start making a blank check 5 timers
We really should.
jacket. Yeah.
I would put it in lucite in my living room if you
Wow.
guys did that. Like I would have Planet Podcast wood in my house. This and
We
the
should
signed
make a
Comedy Bang
jacket.
Bang book next to
Yeah.
each other.
Well,
And then it would be
Signed
like,
by me.
so come to this address. Yeah, go to the elevators. Also, what are your measurements? Like
Sure.
that would be the new. Yeah.
Look, it's not a value judgment because the way our favorite guests, people like you who we love and we love to have on the show and try to have on regularly, sometimes it's about timing, sometimes about what we cover and
Sometimes
the
you
right
live
fit.
across the country.
Sure. You know, it's not like we give preference to certain people to only give them the best movies or only the worst movies or this or that. But the internal canon of the Gabrus blank check episodes is Heat,
Yep.
Road Warrior,
Uh-huh.
Too Fast, Too Furious,
Right. Sort of a little sillier.
Predator,
Yeah.
and the fifth one I'm forgetting is
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
Why can't I remember it?
Why can't I remember it? It's a big one.
Yeah.
Heat was my first one, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal
fuck,
Jacket.
Right.
But
Yes.
look at that 5.
Yeah, it's violent.
It's violent.
Yeah. Guns. Guns are present.
But like, to be fair, those are like 5 movies that, like, if you cut my head open, you would just fall out in like
Right.
big like
Right.
icons.
And David's right that Too Fast, Too Furious is on a different tier from the other 4 movies that
I
are
enjoyed
basically
that movie. but-
undeniable masterpieces.
right.
Right.
But also, it's the only movie in our shared favorite franchise we've covered.
Right.
So if you like have it occupy the space of Fast and Furious at large, that's like an impeccable 5.
I am
It is.
thrilled with that 5.
Yeah.
When you texted me about this, I was like, I'm gonna be in town on a whirlwind tour. I could do that.
It was just like, who should we ask to do Predator? And then we were like, wait, we're fucking morons.
Right. It is so easy.
The highlight of getting a text from Griffin that says we're doing John McTiernan on blank check. If you didn't even invite me to Predator,
Yeah.
I'd still be excited that you sent me that
Well,
text
that's
because
very nice of
I'm
you.
so stoked to
Wow.
listen to it now.
I put this on last night as prep for the podcast. As you said, easiest job in the world, right? Watch Predator as prep. Great. I'm going to have a great fucking time.
Yeah.
30 minutes in, I was like, I fucked up. I fucked up waiting until the night before to watch this movie. I wish I'd watched it 2 nights ago so I could watch it twice before recording
I
the
kind of
episode.
know what you mean. Yeah.
I watched a half hour on the toilet this morning on my iPad. That's how I was like, I need to get more in. I should, and I felt
Yeah.
the same way. I was like, you flew here, asshole. You could have watched it on the flight. You could have fucking watched it 3
You could
times.
watch it 10 times this week. But just, yes, an immaculate film made in insane conditions with a lot of
Yes.
humongous personalities.
Right. That was greeted as stupid as fuck when it
Yes.
came out. Was a hit, but not like a, hit.
No.
And everybody loves it forever and ever now, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no one has any shit to talk about Predator.
No, and weirdly, like the junkiness and the like odd misstepped nature of the Predator franchise continuing for decades only helps the
thing. It's like,
reputation of
how
this
can you
movie.
not make that movie again? It looks so easy.
Yes.
It's muscle guys with guns, and the Predator fucking wastes them. Like,
And every
why do you
time-
keep fucking this up? Like,
Every time
they
someone
make a new
fucks it up,
one.
you're like, I guess Predator should be on
Right.
money.
Yeah.
I guess we
Yeah,
should
exactly.
put the Predator on our $100 bill.
It's funny because a lot of when a movie does that many bad movies, it starts to tarnish some of the OG ones.
Yes.
You know, you're like, oh, fuck. Okay. I
Right.
can't even watch this because now I can't stop thinking about Last Jedi or whatever. But now when you're fucking watching this, I like all the aliens, Danny Glover, Shane Black's Autism is a Superpower version. Like
Yes.
all that shit just disappears. And
Totally.
this is like a singular piece of art.
I mean, Prey is finally the good Predator sequel we waited decades to get. And
Yes.
it's the one closest to this one where they finally kind of figured out the right way to replicate the formula
It's
without
definitely
totally
the
copying
best one since the first, but it's not
Right.
nearly as good as
it. No,
Predator.
no, it's not nearly as good as
Yeah.
Predator.
I really enjoy Predator 2. I
Me
do
too.
I do not hate Predators.
No.
Mm.
That one's really solid.
I don't hate any
I
of
don't-
these.
I don't
No, me
hate any of
neither.
them.
I hated The Predator.
The Shane
where-
Black one
the
is just
Shane Black movie-
depressing.
where there's
I've-
someone's doing Tourette's in a movie. Like,
Yeah.
I've erased that movie from my brain.
smart.
Yeah.
I wish
Like
I could.
as like a trauma response.
Instead, I erased my social security number and my mom's birthday.
Uh-huh.
But I still
Yes,
have
right.
Predators deep in there, and The Predator and
Predators
Requiem
is
and
fun.
It is. But once again, like all of these, you're like on paper, perfect pitch for a Predator sequel, right? Predator 2, what is it? Okay, and the way the first movie was like commandos in the jungle, this is LA race riots, Danny Glover as a cop,
Yeah.
and the Predator lands in the middle of that. You're like, perfect fucking lateral second beat, right?
I love it. Yeah.
And then you're
I
like,
guess
doesn't
so.
really work. And then you're like, Predators, here's the idea. Their planet, they get like 10 of the deadliest killers.
They stock their pond.
Different definition. This is their sort of like Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And you're like, kind of works.
Yeah, it's
That
fun.
kind of works because the cast is pretty radical.
Cast is
Right.
fun, and Nimrod's all right. Yeah,
I
it's
don't
like it's all
dislike
right.
these movies. I mean, Predator 2, I famously never been able to get through without falling asleep.
That was Blade Runner for me for like 10 years.
Okay, no, wait. Blade Runner is like a meditative film that's kind of dense and complex and has a lot of mumbly conversation.
Predator 2 is
Predator
not
2 is
relaxing.
the loudest movie
I
ever
know.
made.
And it's got Paxton going off. They need a urine sample, a semen sample, and a fecal sample. I give my underwear, get all three.
Like, that movie is insane.
It's
Insane.
bananas.
Insane.
And Prey is using UCB terminology here. Sorry to
Oh my
8% of your listeners.
I'm gonna go.
You're welcome to the 92% that have taken level 2.
Yeah.
I think Prey is chasing the game of the Predator
Yes.
that I like.
Yes.
Now, I could sit here. I wish I could be in the, like, where Alien write the $sign. I would just be like, Predator lands in the Crusades. Predator lands in feudal
Yeah,
Japan.
why don't we go the Assassin's Creed
It
video
sounds
game
like
route?
now that's what they're finally
Predator
doing.
fights Vikings.
Right.
Predator fights American Revolutionary War.
fights samurais.
Predator fights dinosaurs.
Well,
Fuck.
I mean, fuck.
Yes.
right?
Wait a second. No, but now we're gonna get ourselves in trouble.
Why?
What do you? Well, because now, what? They're just dinosaurs.
Well, they
He's
could
just-
talk, I guess.
Oh, you see, now we're getting ourselves in trouble. Do they have weapons?
I guess they. All right. The dinosaurs can talk. Predators can't.
But the predators have their own dino species, the P-Rex. So you got a predator riding a P-Rex who's like a T-Rex with the fucking mouth.
Sounds good.
It sounds good.
Good.
Predator versus Toy Story.
Fighting like a
Predator
caveman on a
versus. We just cross them
T-Rex
over with the
Yes.
worst franchises.
No, but it sounds like now finally they've gotten Predator down to the right budget level by being like Hulu, $20-30 million, and just make the premise Predator lands in X.
In time of famous
Right.
warrior.
Feudal Japan continues to be the rumor of what they're actively developing.
It
for
makes
their next
total
put in
sense.
theaters, and I'm satisfied.
Yeah, and just fucking slam dunk. There's this long-standing sort of urban legend that this movie was the Hollywood joke of, who's Rocky gonna fight next? Rocky keeps on escalating to such ridiculous
Yeah,
levels.
he's got to fight Thunderlips. He's got to
Right.
fight. Yeah.
So he was like, by Rocky 7, he's going to be fighting an alien. And there's this erroneous notion that Predator came out of a rival studio being like, fuck, maybe we should actually just make that.
Rocky versus Alien. Now, I
Right.
think
And
that
then,
is.
and then it shifts and it shifts.
I'm
and it
reading from the
shifts.
dossier. Then
JJ
that-
has disproven this.
Yeah,
Basically.
Jim and John Thomas, the idiots who wrote this movie. God bless them. I love them.
The world's smartest idiots.
Yes, exactly.
These are the guys that like forced the script onto like a studio, right?
yes,
And let's get to JJ's thing in a sec. I also want to speak overall about how like accidentally good this movie is.
That's the
Yeah.
thing.
This is the reason I want the
That's
9-hour
exactly the
documentary.
Yeah.
thing. Because like those guys, they went on to write Executive Decision, which is a fun movie.
Mhm.
A lot of their credits, it's Wild Wild West.
Mhm.
Mission to Mars. It's not a movie where the writing is what I like
I would
about it.
agree.
Behind Enemy Lines, they have a story credit on.
Solid.
Solid.
Incredibly solid movie.
solid, simple.
I'm sure they
action movie.
they like, a guy gets caught behind enemy lines, and Hollywood was like, yeah, fine, you bizarrely get a story credit on this and the 8 DVD sequels we're gonna make.
Sure.
That's about it since then. But like the Wild Wild West thing, especially screams to me like these guys are not, stories that are like honed.
No,
Like this
but,
is not
hey,
what they
guess what?
bring.
You come up with this premise, you get to dine out for the rest of
Exactly.
your fucking life.
Well, they more or less do because
Yes.
if you look at their IMDb, it's like all of their credits are like characters in like
Yeah.
40 video games and 70 movies.
Yeah, fucking good.
So they start working on this movie in 83. Rocky IV came out in 85. The joke that you referenced, the sort of like Hollywood was like, well, fucking let's do Rocky versus an alien, is a joke that Joel Silver basically came up with. Like, and said in an interview to Starlog or whatever, where he was like, it's reached the point where they have to fight an alien because like that's the only enemy we can give them. And like Arnie is beating Stallone to the punch. Like he's puffing up the movie.
It feels like that thing that sometimes happens where someone like tweets a joke about a bad movie pitch, and then 2 months later the trailer comes out and they're like, "See, they made my movie," and you're like, "Do you understand how film development works?"
Yeah, right.
You
Also,
had a
don't
joke.
tweet movie pitches.
Don't tweet movie pitch. That's on you, bro. But like, yes, I think it was these two guys independently writing this script, meeting a moment where the joke had entered the culture,
Right.
and suddenly is landing of like, oh, basically the framework exists for us to greenlight this.
I just miss the 80s when it was like, we need to write a script that Arnie and Sly will get in a bidding war over.
Yes.
Like that's our strategy,
Yeah.
basically.
Yes.
So their script was originally called Hunter.
Yeah.
Before they plus it up to Predator.
That's another like accidental genius move because Hunter makes total sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Predator
They're being
stands
hunted.
out in such a specific, and maybe it's because now I've been like washed over it.
No, but
forever.
even I think the Predator's a more evocative word in a certain
It's
way.
a little scarier.
It's a little scary. It's a little more mysterious. Also, just try to imagine referring to this species as the hunter.
right.
You know? Like the way we're all able to say
Alien
like the
versus
Predator.
Hunter.
Right. You
you
say
know.
the Predator, everyone knows what you're talking about.
Right.
They jump to the Predator before they jump to the predators that Chris Hansen catches. If you said the Hunter, they'd be like, from what? Like Snow White and the Huntsman? What are you?
Yeah. Night of the Hunter.
Right. Too many
Guy
things.
Fieri's son.
The Hunter Fieri.
So they write this movie, which is basically, just the most dangerous game with an alien. And like the most dangerous game is going to be like soldiers. So they're even more dangerous,
But
right?
this is, like, look, I want to give them a little credit here.
I do too. They did a great job.
There's a really smart logic chain of like, if this, then what? That we're just going to throw so many improv terms out in this.
Stop it.
But
For listeners who don't know, Griffin and I met when he was in my level 1. Like God
I
knows how-
attended like 2 improv shows in my entire life. And that was one too many, probably.
I think, I mean, unless I'm getting this wrong of one of you being level 1 and one of you being level 2, because there was a switch off.
Oh,
I did
yeah.
intensive with both you and Rogers. I'm
Right.
trying to remember
We are
if it was
actually
different levels
doing
or
this
splitting
now.
a level.
Stop them, Ben.
I can't. It's already started. The only way you could stop it is if you get up and walk around the room and sort
You
of
got to
clear
wet it.
it.
You got to sweep at it,
Yeah,
David.
yeah.
Is that an improv term?
Yeah.
That's what
Oh boy.
I stand over while Ben is editing the blank check episodes, and whenever I think there should be an edit, I run in front of his desk.
I go, okay,
Guys are
so
talking about.
Wait, you were saying the world building? That
no, just the logic chain of like, what would be fun? Deadliest game with an alien, right?
Right.
Okay, so if an alien, it's like create deadliest game with a
Most dangerous
species.
game.
Most dangerous game. I'm sorry. Most dangerous game with a species that's better at hunting than we can even fathom, right?
right.
So then who would they want to hunt? The deadliest humans.
Right.
Who are the deadliest humans?
Commandos.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like guys in fatigues.
And then you're like, oh, so it's them in the jungle. Like there's,
Right.
once you have this
because
idea.
it's the 80s, so it's like everything is like Nicaragua and like, you know, all that shit.
the
We're always
puzzle
in the
pieces
jungle.
just
right
like
now.
line up
Yeah, if this
so
movie came out in like
perfectly.
the 90s, it would have been like the Middle East.
It would have been the
Yeah.
would have been the middle. Like that is entirely accurate. Yes. And
Yes.
they would have gotten, you know, had other set drama instead of the jungle set drama. But
True.
they slip it, they send it everywhere, it gets rejected everywhere. They slip it to a Fox reader. Lawrence Gordon, the
Mhm.
legendary, you know, producer.
Producer at one point Fox he had just become the head of the studio, and he was a guy who came out of the Corman
That's
school.
the thing.
This
He's
is the
like
big thing.
a trash guy. Like
Yes.
trash is his milieu.
Right.
He's coming into Fox. He gets the script, or his reader gets the script and gets kicked up to him. He likes it. They get a phone call. They sold the script. They didn't have an agent or a lawyer.
But they truly like slid it in.
Yes.
Yes.
And like it just through like sort of twists of fate made it to Larry Gordon, who was like, I love this.
It got to the right desk on the right day,
Right.
the right guy who like finally had it was like basically the first nerd, like
Right.
movie dork to ascend to like a high position who wasn't like, I'm Jack Warner, the magic of the movies. Was like, isn't it cool when monsters fucking punch shit?
John Davis, a producer at Fox, a new producer at Fox, had worked on Commando, which is a
yeah.
film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. So Fox is like starting to see the value of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yeah, that guy? Yeah. He's pretty popular. People like him.
Yeah, but I think
Yes.
he was very much seen as like, that's not a proper studio movie star. Let the canons of the world work with
Well,
Schwarzenegger.
it was like coming in big on Terminator too. Is like,
Yeah.
well, of course you could play a stoic robot.
Right. He can, right, exactly. He can play monsters, essentially,
Yeah.
but he's not going to play like a person. He had basically done Conan, the 2 Conan movies, The Terminator,
Yes.
Red Sonja, which he's, you know, sort of not the total star of, right? Commando,
Mhm.
which completely rocks, but is basically about like, what if a guy with a gun shot people?
Yes.
Like, that's not a high concept movie.
Well, I don't know. It's a pretty big concept when you say it like
Honestly, Liam Neeson owes a lot of money to Commando. It's pretty. It's taken.
literally like you're gonna pay.
Yeah.
Like you pissed off a guy. Oh, who'd I piss off? This guy. But you idiot.
that. How do you make him pay? Shoot him with guns.
Commando and Predator both have this in common, and maybe it's just specific to me, but I'm sure it's more universal than I think.
Yeah.
They are like kid ideas
Yeah,
for
100%.
something where it's just
Right.
like, what if we were all just jack dudes with machine guns in the jungle? It's like awesome. Commando is like, there's a sequence where he goes to a gun store and just picks out his weapons like it's a video game fucking. There's also that scene in The Terminator. Like it's like they just know that it's like,
what's his character's name?
John Matrix.
John
It's like a 9-year-old came up with a character name. John Matrix.
It's like, and they take his daughter and then takes him to an island, and it's like Bad Guy Island. It was like one of the first Bad Guy Island movies too. That's now everyone uses to like protect geopolitics. It's like it's a separatist island off the coast of the Philippines. Filipino people are like, what the fuck, man?
One of Epstein's favorite movies.
Look, anyway. After Commando, he does Raw Deal, which is kind of similar to Commando. They gave him a Raw Deal.
Yeah, I've never seen Raw Deal.
Nobody gives him a Raw Deal.
Raw Deal, I feel like, is kind of the forgotten Schwarzenegger movie of this era.
It's not bad. I've seen What do you think of Raw Deal?
Raw Deal kind of rolls.
Really
yeah. You know, he's
he got a Raw Deal.
He got a Raw Deal. He's taking down the mafia, right? He's like a sheriff, and like there's a witness protection angle to it.
Who
and he has
directed Raw Deal?
John Irvin.
Okay.
Raw Deal and the Russian one,
Red Heat.
Red Heat.
Getting confused because of the titles,
Right. Because that's Walter Hill.
Red Heat, which is obviously the one with Belushi, is Walter Hill.
Yeah. Those are where he's like doing his Chuck Norris kind of era, where it's just like this is a plug and play. This has nothing to do with, not built around Arnold. It's just like, this is a story of an undercover cop. It's like, well, of course the undercover cop would be 6'3", 295 pounds and shredded.
But plug and play is a good point, because you're like, right, Terminator, everyone goes, you know what? This does actually make a lot of sense for casting.
Conan, obviously.
Conan, the guy's built for, like, he
Red
built
Sonja.
his body to look like this illustration. When you start to get into Commando, Raw Deal, Red Heat, I guess Red Heat is playing on him being stoic.
Well, so Red Heat is the first inch towards, like, could he play like a somewhat comic character, right? You know, like Twins is the same year as Red Heat. After Twins, it's like this man runs society.
Yes.
Because like it's
Twins
like
is his first $100 million movie, which is so bizarre to think about.
Twins is the most lucrative job he's ever had.
Yes.
Like in terms of like pure profit?
Yeah,
like,
because they all took back end, him, DeVito, and Reitman. And they
took 40% of the back end.
Yeah, and because no one wanted to bet. No, they all dropped their quotes to make this movie because everyone's like, there's no way. And it ends up being
humongous.
I remember he was like a Nerdist interview back in the day. He was like, yeah, more money on that than like the entire Terminator franchise or something crazy like that.
It's so funny to me that it's like, well, that's his comedy era is him like poking fun at like what an established action star he was.
Which he was.
No, he was huge, but it's like comedy is what finally really broke him to the A-list.
Right.
That's what moved him to the very top of Hollywood, is when he started doing the comedy.
When he proved he could do that, it was kind of like, okay, we forgive you.
You know what else he could do that not a lot of people in his realm can do? He's great as himself.
Yeah.
In interviews, in press, in real life, in like, which is why you could just see the road to governor, the road to political leadership.
You watched the documentary, right, David?
No, I haven't seen the Arnie doc. I listened to him on Conan.
I'm going to get this word wrong, but there's a word he uses, like an Austrian word, a term that's like smech or something like that. And they're like, what's smech? And he's like, smells like all this stuff. I'm doing my impression of Arnold now.
He Arnold.
He Arnold. But he basically was just like, all this stuff, like the cigar and the tanks and all of these, this is the smell.
Arnold or accoutrement. Right.
And he's like, he basically is like, he can't define it, but he's like, it's kind of like a term we use for like bullshit.
Yeah. I get it.
But it's like bullshit that's like kind of exciting and makes people pay attention to you.
Look, the dude is a master of branding. There's no way he has an accent still. Like he's been in America for like 50 fucking years.
Yeah.
And his accent in the audiobook is stronger than like in Predator.
Yes.
He's got like, he's saying work, you have to work hard. And he's never done that.
This is the other thing about this guy being like the greatest self-actualizer in history. They're like, okay, you want to be a movie star? First of all, probably never going to happen in legitimate films, because you are a bodybuilder with no acting training. But if you want to give this a go just to be a lunkhead who swings a sword around and shoots people, change your name and learn how to speak an American accent. And he was like, I firmly refuse to do either. The world will bend around me.
Arnold Strong, of course, was how he was billed in Hercules in New York.
I'm Hercules. That's a crazy ass movie.
And they dubbed him over.
Redubbed, And they dubbed him over with someone who speaks even like more broken English somehow. What he does do for Conan, he doesn't change his name. He doesn't master the English dialect. But what does he do? Train with a fucking sword master, change his entire like bodybuilding program because this is what Conan would have.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's a different approach to acting that not a lot of people do anymore. And that is such that's another thing about his magic. He isn't an intellectual theater guy, but he comes at it from, I feel like Conan would have big legs because from carrying the wheel of pain. And he's like, and then he's a sword guy. So he goes and trains with like a master samurai swordsman and trains like hours a day and like works on developing his shoulders because Conan would be swinging a sword all the time.
He understands this fucking visual storytelling. Like, he's an incredible communicator. Like, you can't argue that he is a naturalistic portrayer of the human condition.
Well, he's at his most awkward when he's playing a normal guy. Oh, God, I gotta get the toy for my kid. Like, and he's at his best when he's like, I am a metal man built to kill. You're like, fuck, this guy's believable as the metal man.
So a movie like this, I'm like, he's communicating every beat he wants to pretty gracefully.
The camera also loves him.
Yes.
Like, it's just fucking, especially by this time, you know?
In Predator, is there a word for the male gaze on males via heterosexuality though? Because it's not trying to sexualize these guys, but it's impossible not to stare at them. But it is the sort of male, like, look at that guy's fucking traps energy.
I think guys like McTiernan, I think guys like Zack Snyder now, you know, who I've always, if nothing else, admired for like, he shoots the male body with something of a sexual gaze, like not in like an insane way where he's, you know, going like, you know, completely over the top of it, but he's like, I appreciate this and you should too. Like, this is not just you looking at a statue. This is you looking at a hot fucking giant man. Like, enjoy this.
It's the thing that Arnold talks about, which is like very in line with what you're saying about Conan, that I found so interesting in the documentary, is like, his objective was not, I want to be the biggest guy in the world. He was like, I looked at bodybuilders and I was fascinated by the way that muscles were sculpted. And he was like, I was going for very specific aesthetics. I wasn't just trying to be larger than everyone else, which he did basically do, right?
Yeah.
But he also was like, I like this curve of the shoulder. I like this muscle here on the leg. And he was like, I would spend 6 months doing one thing to try to build something that wasn't the look I wanted, but would support the look when I went to the next phase. Like, he really was thinking compositionally about his body.
There's a famous story that he thinks he didn't win one Mr. Universe or Mr. Olympia because his calves were underdeveloped.
Yes.
So he took all of his sweatpants and cut them at the knee. So he had to have his calves exposed all the time. So he was constantly reminded that they were weak and small. And so he just went fucking apeshit. And that's where you see there's a crazy exercise called a donkey calf raise, where you kind of are bent over with your elbows on and you're doing calf raises. There are so many photos of Arnold with like his bodybuilding friends on his back doing that. Like Franco Columbo, who was like his best friend, RIP.
But then, then he won the next Mr. Universe. Like, he was just like, great, note taken. My calves will be superior.
And he, along the way, every time he met like a new weightlifter, a power lifter, or a bodybuilder that was doing something different than him, he was like open-minded, learned from them, stole from them, you know, like he did whatever it took. He's like, he's not afraid, like, you know, that's another thing. He's like open to input.
Well, this is, look,
he wanted to be Reese in Terminator. Imagine that fucking movie.
Insane. We're loading a lot of things on the plate here, but like, it's another reason this movie works so well is he talks so much about in those like early California bodybuilding days. He went from being very competitive to being like, if I want to be the best, I have to actually go open source on this information and this sport with everyone else.
Right.
Like, I need to find all of my contemporaries, and rather than like antagonize them, bring them in. We all work together. We all share our notes on everything. And it wasn't like, no, thy enemy kind of shit. He was like, first of all, the whole sport's going to get raised if all of us can like create excitement around this.
Right.
But secondly, he was like, we're like scientists in a lab developing shit. We need to be like
forefront of
comparing notes. And this movie similarly like puts him with a crew for the first time, where I think he's kind of doing the same thing with acting. Like, he's watching other guys act who are maybe more natural actors than he is.
There's a moment in If It Bleeds when he's like, and we've got all these big muscle men, soldiers and wrestlers and football players here. And I'm like, that's what excites him in such an interesting way. It's like, bro, it's like a 13-year-old kid. And then there was one guy there who knew karate, you know, like it's like, it's such a fucking dream.
That gets something out of him to surround him with all these guys. And then you talk about how fucking good he looks, aside from just like his face remains insane. Especially this is maybe like, this movie is possibly the most beautiful his face ever was.
Absolutely fucking, like, his face is chiseled.
But unlike some guys who just get big for the sake of being big, you're like, Arnold knows what will play on camera. He has developed his body in a way to work on camera specifically.
It's so radical by somehow in the third act of the movie, everyone's undershirts are gone, but everyone still has their vests. It's like, fuck yeah. There's just that scene at the end when him and Carl Weathers like, they're both, there's no way you can be that like flexed without trying. And they're like, Dylan, he's like, yeah. they're like, they're all just like fucking like raging, like, you know, like vascular as fuck. And it's like, they're clearly just ripping out everything in between. It's so fucking awesome.
Arnold Schwarzenegger likes this script. This movie exists because of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Like he, I think wisely, picks kind of ambitious script post Commando. Yeah. Commando's like unambitious. Commando is I throw guys through walls.
This is also the moment when he is like
sci-fi. He likes like genre stuff.
He's also fully legitimized now. He doesn't have to like go to Dino De Laurentiis.
Right.
You know, it's like the major studios want to work with him. And suddenly when you have a new type of movie star like this, where you're like, we don't have scripts that are kicking around that are obvious to just throw to him, right? Like a Bradley Cooper emerges. It's like, hey, here's the pile of like stuff that Wahlberg and DiCaprio have turned down the last 5 years, right? A Schwarzenegger emerges in the mid 80s and they're like, we're starting from square one, basically. We need to find things you would work in.
Right. And then there's something weird about like, well, maybe it doesn't make sense to have a giant bodybuilder commando, but what if we surrounded him by other freaks?
So that's Schwarzenegger's idea. Because the script, I think, was Solo. He was the only. It was like really just about like a guy versus the alien.
Yeah,
and he's paid $3 million for this film.
Nice work. Nice work.
Good for him. Exactly, 100%. And he says, "Well, I always wanted to do a film like I always wanted to do a film like The Wild Bunch or The Magnificent Seven. You know, like that's
not a bad impression.
You know, he wanted guys working together." He wanted, you know, he says it took me back to my bodybuilding days where you work with a bunch of guys, like you're saying. You got a camaraderie that develops. He wanted to capture that.
But also, he's so aware of his limitations that he's like, I shouldn't be doing 90% of the dialogue.
Right.
I should have other guys.
I think he's wise.
And you get fucking Bill Duke and Carl Weathers who are like liquid charisma.
Yes.
Like just do whatever the fuck. Let them say.
Well put. Liquid charisma. Like literally, like either of those guys. If Schwarzenegger died, I'd be like, I got Weathers. Like I'm gonna be okay in this movie. But like if they're like, you know, shit, fucking, we pull a Steven Seagal, we'll pull an executive decision. Like Schwarzenegger's out. Like, are you okay with that? I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine.
Duke and Weathers, like classically trained actors who are also fucking built, right?
I know,
and are just relishing the opportunity here of like, oh, can I see? Like, I know I can act. I don't need to prove that to anybody.
Right?
Can I fucking out tough Arnold?
Yeah,
right.
And Duke is like. Give me 3 weird character monologues and I'll do the movie. Like, give me 3 like an actor would love to be singing fucking like Long Tall Sally during a mental breakdown or whatever.
I mean, let's just put a pin in 15-minute sidebar on Duke.
We'll give him 8 minutes.
12.
Okay. 5 minutes for Duke and another 5
10
for the for the shaving.
Yeah.
Which this is the first time I've noticed that they establish it on the chopper right in.
They do. It's right. It's right at the start. So John Davis takes credit for McTiernan. He says, I saw Nomads. I liked it. I made Larry Gordon watch it and say, like, this is the guy.
Right. Schwarzenegger takes credit for it as well.
Everybody takes credit for it. McTiernan's like, no, I showed Larry Gordon Nomads and he liked it.
The thing he says on the commentary is that his manager, you want to know how I really, here's the secret to how Hollywood works. You want to know how I really got this movie? My agent says to me, this is the lawyer you should hire. He also represents Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you employ him,
you'll get on his radar, basically.
Yes.
Right.
And then he was like, so then they were sending me Arnold scripts. He said that he was offered Commando. McTiernan doesn't do Commando because there was another thing he was developing that fell through.
Sure.
So then the second Arnold project they offer him is Predator. And he's, for basically the same reasons. He's like, I love kind of like Dirty Dozen, you know, Guns of Navarone, sort of Men on a Mission movies. And also I like the sort of King Kong aspect of like, guys go on adventure, think they're doing one thing, realize they're way in over their head. Reality is very different than they thought.
Always works. For me, I'm a team guy. X-Men, heist movies, Heat, like anything where everyone has like a specialty and because of, I think, being like simmered in G.I. Joe my whole life.
Yeah,
if you can
sure.
like look at the way someone is dressed and guess their specialization is like a dream come true.
This is a very real American hero coded movie.
Yes, it's human G.I. Joe. It's so perfect.
But also,
you get to fucking actually kill people for once. It's not just like planes crash and you see parachutes all the time.
I love the team specialist thing, and I love we're experts. We know what we're doing. We're in control of this movie.
Right.
That 45 minutes in, they're like, oh, fuck, we're in a different genre than we thought we were.
I like that. They are like experts at what? Shooting guns into leaves?
Correct.
They don't ever do anything smart in this movie.
Well, to be fair, there's a great moment where he's like, why weren't you in Libya? He's like, we're a rescue team, not a hit squad. And then the scene when they get to the fucking base,
destroy
they just
people.
murder everyone, no questions asked, pistol whip a woman.
And
like
then Schwarzenegger's like, hey, what the fuck was this, by the way? And it's like, I don't know, bro. Did you want to do any more recon before you drove an exploding truck into the middle of this base?
Not to jump ahead, do you guys know the story of that sequence?
I mean, let's not jump ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. This film was attached to, we got to shout him out because he gets shouted out so much in this podcast. We've covered one of his films.
Okay.
New Zealand filmmaker Jeff Murphy, who of course directed Under Siege to Dark Territory.
Yeah,
Of course.
But also was the original choice to direct this and the original choice to direct Alien 3, one of the many original choices.
Sure.
A great filmmaker. He's made Goodbye Pork Pie, Udo, The Quiet Earth, a lot of good New Zealand films. And then he made like junky American movies, Young Guns 2,
Great
Free
movie, though.
Jack, Under Siege 2, stuff like that.
Did all three of those movies on Action Boys.
Hell yeah. Did you do Fortress 2 Re-Entry?
No.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
Fortress the one with Ray Liotta?
it's Christopher Lambert, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, no, we haven't done that one yet.
So
I'm thinking of the Prison Island one with Ray Liotta.
he had also been the first choice to direct Conan, maybe, or he and Arnold
Okay.
had fought on the development of Conan. And so once Arnold comes aboard, get out of here, Jeff Murphy.
Sure.
So they need a new guy. Arnold's quote on McTiernan is, what set Nomads apart was the tension McTiernan created, maintained in a film that cost less than $1 million to make. Like, they're watching Nomad and they're basically like, this is a high ceiling guy, right? Like, it's like, sure, maybe the movie is small, but like,
That's 20x.
he's
this guy's
doing a lot
budget,
with
yeah.
nothing.
I can
here.
kind of see it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, like the script for Nomads is poor. It is the worst. It's the only
is. The
movie
script is the
Tiernan
biggest
himself
problem. He wrote
wrote,
it,
which is
yeah.
kind of telling. Where it's like maybe that's not his strength, and the script is vaguely incoherent in ways.
It's fucking nonsense, dude.
Right.
You'll see it someday.
But there is like a mood and a tone, and the thing I think there's a Gordon quote in the dossier about just like a lot of that movie is just Pierce Brosnan looking at a van slowly rolling down the street and a maintained sense of ominous dread of like, when is this gonna break? And they were like, if he can make a van scary,
Right.
and he has no money, and this movie's just Pierce Brosnan looking at a van, if we drop him in the jungle with Arnold Schwarzenegger and a good monster design. But even still, I do think part of him getting this movie off of Nomads is that no one thought this movie would be particularly
Right. They weren't
important.
betting big on it.
Right.
in any
Even
way.
though now Schwarzenegger is making Fox movies, this is still a B movie for Fox, where
Right.
they're like, look, we need a guy who'll just get it done. This movie sells itself. It's Schwarzenegger fighting an alien. Critics are going to make fun of us.
You saying the Nomads tension thing makes me see like the jump to Predator, because Predator's got like a little bit of that Jaws energy for like the
Oh, yeah.
first act, the first couple acts.
It is wild how little you see the Predator.
It's like genius to how little you see the Predator.
You don't see him in full until the very end, but even like if you're just stop watching any physical representation of the Predator, it happens so much less often than you remember.
Yes.
Even just
you
the
do
cloaking
not see
effect.
him with the helmet on for an hour plus.
No.
Like, let alone the face.
I clocked it. I think it's a little under an hour is when he takes out his toolkit and tries to like
Fix his leg.
fix his wounds.
Right.
And that's the first time you're seeing like
A
his
body.
hand without
Yes.
cloaking.
Right.
Yeah.
You're seeing like his hand and his thigh. You're seeing actual body parts.
It's awesome.
Donald McAlpine shot this film. The cinematographer of Moulin Rouge.
Rico
Film.
Morant, Australian
big
legend.
Australian guy.
Yeah.
He says about Arnold, and this is sort of along the lines of what you were saying. I really admire Arnold because he knows exactly what he's playing. I remember there'd be rewrites every morning. One morning, Arnold comes out of his trailer up to John, grabs him by the collar and says, John. John says, yes. And he says, there are 4 words here. I'll do 3.
Yeah.
He's basically just like, the less I talk, the better. That's how you use me.
Yeah.
Why are
right?
some of my favorite actors guys who famously like him, Tommy Lee Jones, Clint Eastwood, Nichols. Like my favorite actors are guys who just go, no, I'm not saying no. Lose,
I mean,
take me out of here, take me out of here,
look,
take me out
there's
of
a
here.
slippery slope from doing that to being really fucking lazy,
Yeah,
which
oh, yeah.
certainly a lot of the guys we like have had that arc where it's like, why did he start sucking and everything? It's like because he shows up and just rips pages up and goes, I'm not shooting any of this shit.
Yeah. And then he's not in his own coverage and shit. Like they keep doing, like you just get lazier and lazier.
But when these guys have good judgment, it is like most scripts you read are overwritten, even the great ones.
They kind of have to be.
They're written in a way where everyone who's reading them, the people who have to greenlight it, the crew members who have to start developing, strategies based on the script, everything needs to be communicated so clearly of, I understand exactly from this what this scene is like, what this room needs to be like, all of this. And then you get to set. Most good actors are like, you know what? I can say this in a look.
Yeah.
Right.
That line is
frequently like, these are
overstated.
this is redundant. There's
Right.
always so many redundancies in scripts
Yeah.
because you have to like, sorry, executives, but we need to make it so you can understand it.
I think I invoked this on another episode recently, but there was an interview where Damon was talking about being on set with Nicholson on The Departed. And all these actors who work with Nicholson have this story where just in between takes, he just goes like, can I explain to you the secret of my career? Like he just imparts the advice of like, you want to know how I became the biggest star?
I broke it down into 5 easy pieces.
Nicholson's 5 pieces for success. But he says to Damon, he's like, you want to know the secret of my career? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, I'm a really fucking good writer. And Damon was like, what does that mean? And he was like, oh, the answer is that when he's on set and he's making those kinds of decisions of like, I shouldn't say this, or we need a scene like this here.
Yeah.
Even if he's not manually, physically the one writing the script or getting credit for it, if you're going to be like the guy in a movie who's carrying the story, you kind of need to have a good writer's
You need to have a grasp on the story and like character and all that shit,
or else
too, which
you're
all comes
just
from the writing
getting lucky. And to a certain extent, I do think Arnold's a kind of a good writer.
100%. At least he was.
He gets it in the
He
big
definitely
picture,
loses
big
something in the
idea way.
mid-90s.
Yes, he does.
Like he starts making junk in the mid-90s. I think it's probably because he's getting less good scripts because his star is waning.
And also, he has it to even lesser degree than Sly and JCVD and Chuck, all my heroes.
Yeah.
All these guys go mad with power as well.
He goes mad with power.
Yeah.
He has the best filmography of those 4 guys. After
He's the best
1995.
actor of those 4
and he's
guys.
the best actor. And like movies like End of Days and The Sixth Day, you're like, this isn't bad, but I mean, this isn't good, but I see what you saw in this. Like,
right.
It's not like a disaster. Like Sly is basically doing schlock. Like JCVD basically goes direct to video.
Yeah,
Chuck Norris
and
basically goes
Seagal
direct to
goes
video.
to like
right.
Serbia and makes movies.
Right.
for the
Seagal starts
mafia.
making like Putin propaganda.
But
Right.
Arnold
Seagal's in a gym just like shoving 200-pound doughy guys around.
Those videos where he's just standing there and guys just charge him and he goes like, and they just fall over. I'm like, what is this demonstrating?
Yeah.
Have you seen these
amazing
videos?
powers?
I have. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's really sad.
And then like, I mean, there's some viral video of like one of those, direct-to-video Seagal movies where he plays a guy who's dragging, like, it's like a army scene. He's dragging someone who's fallen, like, to safety. And it's so obvious that the guy is being dragged by a wire and Seagal's like barely touching his arm.
Bro, I watched something called like Sniper 4 Special
They're all
Ops.
called something like that.
And
right?
it's a whole movie about a mission, and Seagal's on the cover with a sniper rifle. He's on a separate, like, he's like the B story where he's just sitting at a desk with a sniper rifle in a chair, and he has like one hand-to-hand fight and one sniper, but the rest of the movie is
It
just
does not
all-
happen around him, right?
Yeah,
He didn't have to show
He's
up.
not even involved at all. He shot like 3 days, and he's on the cover of this
bless him.
fucking movie.
But the power crazy thing, right? A lot of
Yeah.
these other guys we're talking about start to think of themselves as auteurs, or someone like Stallone is like, I've always told you I was the auteur.
Well, he's an actual like theater nerd kid that somehow just was jacked and blue collar. Yeah, that's the one.
that's
pretty
incredible,
good,
sir.
right?
That's in the peak Seagal doing the hair and beard
The
stencil.
black goatee.
Yeah. Just put the fucking stencil over his face and there I go. He gets the fucking Eddie Munster's widow peak.
Woolly
and then,
Willy facial hair.
And then the Hollywood Hulk Hogan facial hair.
Yeah. The makeup artist uses a magnetic pencil on him and just drags the little metal shavings over. But Schwarzenegger never was like, they need to let me write and direct the film, right?
Right.
Like there's something telling about he knew his limitations even in that
Right.
department.
Stallone's like, I'm an artist, like
Right.
fundamentally. And Schwarzenegger's not like
He's like,
that.
I'm an entertainer
Yes.
and a businessman.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger also comes from the world of athletics and quotes where you're
Yes.
like understanding of coaches and training partners.
Right.
And you understand that it's a big team effort.
Right.
And also, he becomes friends with someone like Jim Cameron. He's like, stay nearby, bro.
But it is what, like, look, they're not at the same tier as McTiernan and Cameron, who are like two of the best action filmmakers of all time, right? But like his later 90s, early 2000s runoff period, you're like, he's still working with like Andrew Davis.
Yeah, decent directors.
And like,
and like bigger
Peter
budget
Hyams.
movies.
He's
and
got
like,
taste.
Something like Batman and Robin is like they paid him this much money
Correct.
to do this little work. Like
Right.
that's a little different than End of Days, Sixth Day, Collateral Damage, where it's like he's trying.
Collateral Damage is hot garbage.
Collateral Damage is
that's
tough.
like and then I hate Last
That's
Action
Andrew
Hero,
Davis.
too.
yeah, but that's Andrew
Well, we're gonna
Davis.
talk
You're
about
like,
it.
he's hiring the guy who did The Fugitive and The First
Right.
Under
No.
Siege. That's a good pick.
End of Days is Peter Hyams, who's a
Yeah.
great action director. 6 Days, Robert Spottiswoode coming off of Tomorrow Never Dies. This is not the best or anything, but like that was a big movie.
Mhm.
And then it's Terminator 3.
Yeah.
And then he's the governor of
And
California.
Mosdell was like another good pick. Like Breakdown Rules.
Breakdown rules. Yeah, it does. I mean, I love that movie.
Mosdell makes sense in a like pick a guy who maybe hasn't totally gotten to flex what he can do.
I just think
a
making
Nomad's ass.
making a Terminator movie without Cameron was the mistake, and they never should have done it.
Irreversible.
At least
Exactly.
they made it 9 more times.
And then and then they were like, but this time, and that's the lesson of Terminator is like, no.
Well, it's like, what if we make it without Cameron and without Arnold? It's like, wait, what?
No, it's a double negative that will turn into a positive. I hope you're all enjoying our Terminator Patreon series for $5 a month. 4 consecutive bad sequels being covered right now on our Patreon.
Anyway, first they get Carl Weathers.
Yes.
He's in the Rocky movies.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
They get Bill
He's
Duke.
Adonis's dad.
He's Adonis. He plays Adonis's dad.
He's Donnie's dad.
One day, Rocky, I'm going to have a kid.
McTiernan seemed to apply in the commentary that they didn't want to pay for Weathers, that he was sort of like outside of.
Apparently, McTiernan's first idea was like, let's get Vietnam vets. Like, let's get real guys.
The casting director,
Right.
what's her name? Who
her
did an
name
incredible
is
job on
Jackie
this movie.
Birch.
Yes. That was her big idea of like, if we want like guys who can out tough Schwarzenegger also in this age grouping, we can get only Vietnam vets and have them all bring that verisimilitude
Now,
to
they
it.
did get Richard Chaves and Jesse
Yes.
Ventura, who both served in Vietnam.
Right. And Richard Chaves had written the play Trancers.
They're like opposite versions of Vietnam vets. Like
Yes.
Richard Chaves is this sort of like, yeah, he was a soldier, and then he's kind of becomes this intellectual, like, you know, artist about it. And Jesse Ventura, it's like, yeah, he became a pro wrestler because he's a giant man.
Right.
Of course, later he does become the governor. of
Another
Minnesota.
governor.
Yes.
2 governors in one movie.
So they get those guys. But then like Carl Weathers, it's like, that's Carl Weathers. Bill Duke, it's like he was in Commando. He was great in that. Let's have Bill Duke. Right.
That Commando scene with Bill Duke, that's the famous, I'm a Green Beret. I eat Green Berets for breakfast. He throws Bill Duke through a wall in this hotel fight.
Hard to do.
Hard to do. On the bed in the hotel room they go to
Mhm.
is maybe the earliest representation of pegging I've ever seen.
Wow.
Rewatch this Commando sequence. The dude is on all fours and the girl is behind him with his hands on her hips. And it's played in the background. No one reacts to it. They just do the classic like, oh, you know, but it's fucking wild. I was like, wait, can we go back?
Do you guys think that Deadpool has seen Commando?
My least favorite thing about Deadpool is what you are referencing, essentially. Like, I'm happier with him being like, hey, I eat chimichangas, the most random food of all time, versus him being like, I have anal sex, the most random sex of all time. It's like, shut the fuck up, Deadpool. Just enjoy your nice
Drop it,
partnership.
Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw 2 nerds on YouTube last week complaining about the pegging.
Well,
Just being like, we all know Deadpool rules. I mean, that one scene makes me so uncomfortable. Like, it's just
you
like
know
kind
what?
of
That's
weird,
why I
right?
should shut up, because Deadpool is. I'm at one end of a spectrum,
thing.
and Deadpool's in the middle here.
I
and
had
those
the
guys
same
are on
sort
the
of
other.
eye roll
Yeah,
reaction
yeah,
to the Deadpool pegging, and then I watched this video and I was like, maybe the next movie he should be pegged 10 times.
Right.
Yeah, it's like kind of like when Nirvana made out on SNL to like spite rednecks
Right,
or
you're
whatever.
Like, this is working. Keep doing it. But Carl Weathers, no, it was like the challenge of who's a guy who is like a serious trained actor, but has like the size, the toughness, the build to be able to credibly stand next to Arnold and is like a star, but isn't so much of a star that the movie becomes like an unbalanced two-hander. And Carl Weathers, it sounded like, was a little bit higher in quote than what they had allotted for that role. And McTiernan pushed really hard, especially coming off of Rocky, to be like, I really think if we put him in the scenes with Arnold, it's going to up Arnold's game.
Apparently it did. They competed, basically. Like they're running, they're bodybuilding, they're waking up at 3 a.m. They're definitely not using steroids. Like,
also, like, look, Apollo is the like egomaniac fool in
Rocky.
Right.
It's fun to watch him flip it, kind of.
Yeah, in Rocky's 2 to 4, he's the heart of those movies.
Right.
He's so good in them.
Yes. But then he becomes just like, a nice friend mostly, right?
Basically.
He's great in them, but you could see him being like, this is my chance to actually be like tough and cool.
Yeah. I mean, in Rocky 2 to 4, especially 2 and 3, he's the guy who's like, Rocky, I've been where you're at now.
Yes.
Like, I've done the celebrity thing and it sucks. Like, he's on the other side of it. In Rocky 4, he's just like, I have to kill Ivan Drago. And then he just gets his head punched off.
I'm going to fight the Cold War for us. I'll be right back.
He's kind of irrational in that
I'll be right back. I got to stop the Cold War. Wait, hold on. Let me raw dog somebody real quick for an idea of 3 more movies.
Is that Felicia Rashad? No, that's his real wife, right?
I'll pay off later.
Do we know who Adonis's mom is? She's not in the movies.
No, they're waiting to reveal it's like Adrian. Like the movie's like this fucking snake eating its own tail at this point.
They've done a good job making Creed sequels not suck, but it's going to be so easy for them to make a mistake like that.
To have Drago's kid be like, it's like this is Rocky babies.
It is
Rocky babies.
It is crazy.
Rocky babies.
Absolutely crazy that second movie basically works.
Yes. Obviously the least successful of the 3, but still like a B movie, like a totally fine movie.
When they were like, are you going to do a Creed 2? And Stallone was like, yeah, and I want to write it. It's Drago's kid. And I have a sad conversation with Lundgren at a restaurant. You're just like, no, this is the exact opposite of what you guys should be doing.
I think if he would have died in Creed, he would have won the Oscar.
Agreed.
If he would have let him, if his ego would have let himself die,
and if he had yelled at 20 less assistants, he might have won the Oscar.
That's right. Assistants, studio heads, everybody,
studio heads, producers,
APs, co-stars. I mean, this is my big theory. I think it's just very logical. We said this on The Big Picture, but like everyone's like, how could he have lost that award? And it's like everyone else who voted for him were bodies that don't really have to work with him.
Right.
And it's the same thing that I think fucked Eddie Murphy and Dreamgirls. Which is like, well, the Globes will give it to them. The critics associations will give it to them.
But not colleagues.
Not even SAG, where the union is so big, and a lot of them are just people who idolize these guys and have never worked with them. And they get to the Academy and it's like, do you understand how late he was every single day?
Yeah.
He made Griffin Newman look early.
That's why you're never going to win an Oscar.
Do you understand how big his shits were? He made Griffin Newman look like a light shitter. But yes, no. The beginning of Creed 2, when he's alive, you're like, oh right, they fucked this up.
Yeah,
and now he doesn't really have.
At least he gets one more paycheck.
Hey Creed, how you doing? And you're
Irvin
like, right.
Winkler's a vampire.
But look,
he keeps calling. There's a period of he's a great Instagram follow. He's an amazing social media head, Sly.
Yeah,
and he's he pops off.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing, and he was doing all this like anti Irwin Winkler shit for a long time.
It got a little anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I don't think you should call anyone who's Jewish a vampire. I agree.
I love his Irwin Winkler shit.
Just to be clear, Griffin, he didn't even get a SAG nomination for Creed.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So you know what? That even further backs up my point.
Proves it even more.
Right. It was only people who don't actually work on film sets giving him awards. My point was just like the arc of those 4 Rocky movies. Rocky goes from being like an underdog to being like a fucking cartoon superhero, right? Apollo Creed becomes the humanity of the movie. But at the same time that Rocky's becoming this absurd action hero.
Apollo becomes like the actor of the movie.
Right.
You're like, oh, we need to like put some heart and some, it's like, well, we'll give those lines to Creed.
It's just, there's something fun about like Weathers challenging Schwarzenegger to act harder, and Schwarzenegger challenging like Weathers and activating something in of like, I want to kind of do the fucking action star thing that I'm watching my co-stars do.
Well, Weathers was a huge jock. He was like a fucking pro football player.
And like a big ass guy.
He's the best.
He's a pretty solid director.
Love him. He's a good director.
His fucking Mandalorian episodes are really good.
Both of them are good.
And Eugene Cordero says he says he's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, like liquid charisma, you're just like, and even just
He's hot too. He's so
he is
fucking hot.
aged incredibly.
He is hot in this. He's hot now.
Yeah.
He was probably hot when he was 22 years old and fucking right, like catching passes at San Diego State or whatever
He's
it was.
fucking so yoked in this movie.
Yes.
So proportionate. And his arc, and this is another thing I like picked up only in the last few viewings, is like they give him that moment of like, you don't have to do. He's like, no, and I owe it. And you're like, that's more than this movie needs.
Agreed.
And that's what keeps this elevated the whole
Talking
time.
about the interesting politics of this movie, McTiernan said in the first draft he read, which I imagine was still written by the brothers.
Sure.
Dylan it's like halfway movie twist. Dylan is the bad guy.
Yeah.
He is the human villain of the
kind of
movie.
a Rambo twist.
Right.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
set them up
Right.
to fall, right? And McTiernan was like, I don't think this movie needs a human villain.
Right. We got the ultimate villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone should be unified in trying to not get killed by the Predator.
Right. It's basically at this point chopper or no chopper
Right.
are your only
Well,
choices.
That's something that this movie, when you watch it, you didn't know you were craving, because every
Yes.
action movie now is like, we're actually the zombies.
Right.
We're actually the dragons. And it's like, fuck
and
you.
it always is the Jean-Claude Van Damme. It always is the guy, the sort of off, lead guy who's
Yeah.
famous-ish. And it's like, they cast him so he can be the villain in the last act. Like,
Topher
he'll be
Grace
the
will be
nice
the bad
guy,
guy,
and then
yeah.
he'll be the villain.
But also McTiernan's like, look, I just don't think that's that interesting. And I think it's so much more interesting to give Carl Weathers as an actor rather than like, is this guy a little suspicious and sneaky for the first half of the movie? And then you reveal he's like mustache twirling puppet master in the back in the shadows. It's like, no, he fucking reveals where he was coming from. Schwarzenegger calls him out on it, and he has to suddenly assess, was I wrong about all of this? And the second half of the movie is him being like, I've like fucked everything up. I like followed a lie blindly.
I sent another group of friends to death.
Yes.
And I'm about to do it again.
I like believed the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like this whole
He gets
movie
to play it. He plays it well.
If it's about anything deeper, this movie is about like American interventionalism.
That's what it's about. No, it's not. It's not deep. Every 80s movie, you do an action movies podcast.
Yeah.
That is mostly about 80s movies.
I'm steeped in the fucking like pseudo-fascist American politics of the time. Yeah.
That is the anxiety of all 80s action movies, especially about soldiers going somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't know how to do this anymore. We fucked this up in Vietnam. Like, that's Rambo, obviously, is the most obvious version of it. But like, it's in all of these movies through the 90s. Guys in fatigues being like, oh shit, and like shooting at a tree where nobody is. And then getting their fucking solar plexus transported to Venus,
That story shift, though, I think is like, it's not letting Dylan off the hook to make like an easier movie. It's actually making a messier movie.
Interesting.
Which is then halfway through, you're like, they shouldn't have been here in the first place.
I love that Dylan's like little outsider status throughout the movie. Like when Jesse threatens him, he's like, I don't know who you are, but you make noise again. And it's like, oh, this is fucking awesome. And everyone kind of gets one scene with Dylan where they're like, fuck off, square. Right. And it's so funny to cast Carl Weathers as the pencil pushing CIA twerp is like this
gigantic.
absolutely yoked stud.
Right. Introduced with, of course, famously the manliest handshake of all time.
The most famous picture in action movies.
My
is their
desktop
hands.
wallpaper for 12 years.
Like, they can't have a normal fucking handshake. They have to have an arm wrestling competition, just to say hello.
But this is the little kid brain.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to back off my idea of the male gaze, and I'm going to go to little kid gaze.
The little kid gaze.
Because this is like, you're just looking at two, and in a way, we're objectifying these men in a way that it doesn't traditionally happen to men. It's like, this is about their fucking arms.
Yeah.
This is two important characters who have like a deep history, and they're going to have some issues across this movie and connect and reconnect and save each other's ass. But their greeting is a single shot of a insert of two fucking baby oiled arms going like this, vascular as fuck. You know, they were like hitting the bands and the dumbbells in between. And no one looks cooler in this movie coming off the fucking, when they all come off the chopper in their street clothes with their cool sunglasses and shit.
His long red polo.
Yeah.
Like weirdly long.
Jesse Ventura's got like fucking Linda Tripp glasses on.
But yeah, it's also McTiernan just like doing perfect tone setting of like, if I'm cutting into this shot of these arms styled this way with this intensity, you immediately know exactly what movie you're in.
You do. But also, I mean, Aliens is the year before. I'm watching this movie and I wish at 1 year old I had watched this movie in theaters. But like being like those guys coming off the chopper being like, man, these guys are going to die in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like all these meatheads are going to go.
Yes.
I fucking love Aliens for all the same reasons you love this movie. Yeah.
And Aliens, that's Jim Cameron. So he's like, we're going to spend 25 minutes with these guys, like having breakfast, right? Chatting to it. And Predator, no.
Predator, the characterization of the is just in their weapons.
Yes.
It's like, that's the big gun guy, that's the grenade guy, that's the knife guy, that's the guy. And you're like, got it. I'm in.
Obviously,
The shaving guy.
Yeah,
should
I'm
shout-
the shaving guy.
Shane Black is there.
Yeah.
He was brought basically because they were like, we'll cast you and then you'll rewrite the movie on set. And he was like, I don't want to do that. I just want to be in the movie. That sounds great.
He wanted to act more.
Right. I'm hot.
Silver
can I
and
be in the movie?
McTiernan are like, we'll get like free rewrites out of it. Just give him here and we butter him up with the role. And then he gets there and he's like, no, I agreed to do this so I could act and be in Mexico.
Right. And John Davis is like, kill his character off.
Right. So that's why he dies immediately, because he refused to do any punch up. I mean, there's stuff. They were like, naturally stuff comes out of him on set that we then did use.
Right, because you have a
he's
legendary
like doing
banter
jokes,
writer.
Right. And he would just be like, you know what would be funny is if you did this. So even aside from like the joke, the twice repeated joke, which is so good, is like his thing. Right.
Obvious. That's such a Shane Blackism. Yeah.
But I also think there are like a lot of ideas he seeded throughout the movie, even though he refused to ever sit down and actually like run a draft through his typewriter. It's also just such a good comedy rule of threes of like, he tells the joke on the plane, it bombs, right? And then the second time you're like, he's going to keep trying to make this joke work, but he does a variation of it. The guy's workshopping, right?
Yeah. And he's just choosing the worst audience every time.
Yes.
He like chooses Billy, who is like out to fucking lunch for the second joke, you know? Like,
and then you're like, great runner. Now this guy's going to keep one by one going through every member of the team, trying a different version of the giant vagina joke. No, he's dead.
no, he dies. Thank God.
Two beats
Does it twice
dead.
and then, all right. I mean, even the Predator's like, you keep doing the pussy line. Get out of here.
The movie, the script, it's like underwritten in a very interesting way, like you're saying, but everything someone says seems like something they would say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like from Ventura's slinging the F word, you know, from Billy's kind of like, and I ain't afraid of no man.
Yeah.
You know, like
Bill
all that.
Duke, you believe it. You're like, yeah, this guy is ice cold. Ventura, you're like, if I saw that guy in the subway, I would like, oh, I want to get off this car.
Like, I'm a limp dicked what? Oh no.
You know, Ventura would start talking to me on this. Hey, brother, like, can you tell me we're 50? I don't want to talk to you, man. I'm getting out of here.
I'm on the F train headed north uptown. I'm getting off at East Broadway.
Where did the stonemasons meet and plan out the forced demise of our planet?
When I went on High and Mighty, I talked about the subway.
hell
Just
yes.
remembering that.
And Ben, you did grind set mindset?
Correct.
Maybe the funniest thing for you to pick.
It was we had a blast. It was really fun. We were both we realized that we have dozens of side hustles, and that's something we have in common.
We're both entrepreneurs in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone recently, we were out at dinner. I mean, this was a couple months ago now, but we were like, you were talking about your fashion show, and then a friend of a friend went, so I'm confused. I thought you said you were a podcast producer. You have a clothing line? You were like, well, I did a show for a clothing line. And he was like, was it a bit? And you were like, no, the clothes are real. And I could see you doing the thing you often do where you struggle to like explain your existence to new people. And then the guy just went, oh, I get it. You're a multidisciplinary artist. And Ben went, yes.
Yes, that's exactly what I am.
The relief that
Wait, say that again. Don't zap.
See me.
Multidisciplinary. There's a C in there. Okay, got it.
Disciplinary.
Yes. David?
Yes.
I hate planning weddings.
You're always doing that.
I keep getting stuck.
Addicted to planning
I
weddings.
keep getting buttonholed
Uh-huh.
into planning weddings.
Dragooned.
I keep getting...
Everyone's like, who would be good at this? Griffin Newman.
People know that I am... No one understands mature adult love better than I do.
Task
I'm
oriented.
organized. I love micro and macro managing.
Punctual.
Punctual. Formal.
Look, I've planned a wedding.
As have I. I just told you I planned 100.
It's intimidating.
It's not a competition.
Finding the perfect suit, though, Griffin, should not be intimidating. That should not be a hassle.
This is a good point.
Indochino makes it easy to get a fully customizable suit right from home. Clickety clack, ding dong.
Clickety clack, ding dong.
That's how I browse the internet. I go clickety clack, ding dong.
My opinion has always been, and this is just my personal stance. Don't wear just any suit on your big day.
You want a really special thing.
You want high thread count fabrics, patterns, and colors to choose from. And Indochino can help you design a suit perfectly tailored to your body and this is the harder thing, your personality.
The whole thing with Indochino is the sort of the custom element, right? Like they've got these lovely suits, very affordable. And you can go to a showroom if you want to see styles for yourself and stuff, which is great.
But this isn't off the rack stuff. They're gonna make something fit to your taste.
I want this wool linen olive suit. Do you think it's time for me to get an olive suit?
Yeah, I think you need a wool linen olive suit.
Indochino lets you design any suit you've always wanted. Fine-tune every detail, lapels, linings, monograms, pocket flaps. They start at just $4.99 for suits. Fitted shirts start at $89. It's bespoke without that premium price tag.
They've been dressing grooms and groomsmen since 2007, and we all know that was a great year for movies.
That's a good point. You can set up your measurement profile on their website. You can choose fabric and customizations without even leaving your house, or book an appointment at a showroom near you. Let the style guides help you and your groomsmen with every detail. They've got a team of experts with the resources, style advice, and professionalism to make your dream a reality. And you can, if you want some groomsmen looking good too, you can get them involved.
So I want to say this is 2 points, okay? It's a do and a don't. Do. Go to Indochino.com and use code CHECK to get 10% off any purchase of $3.99 or more. That's INDOCHINO.com, promo code CHECK. Do that. Don't ask me to plan your wedding. I'm begging you all to stop doing this.
When planning your wedding, get a suit as unique as you with Indochino. And Griff, hey, could you do something for me?
Please don't. What is it?
Just my friend's wedding. They don't have a planner. So we haven't mentioned the person who got fired from this movie. Not Shane Black killed off early, but fired.
And this is another thing that makes it insanely accidental.
Yes.
Jean-Claude Van Damme was the original Predator.
Do you know this, Ben?
I did not.
He was going to play the Predator
in the suit because they were like, oh, it'll be cool. He'll be agile. He'll do kicks and shit. And when you hear the guys in the movie talk about it, they talk about it like comes in here doing his fucking little gay kicks and shit. And we're like, what the fuck is that? And the average height of the main cast is 6'5", and Van Damme's 5'7". Yeah.
He's listed at 5'10".
He is.
No exaggeration.
No.
Obviously, his whole thing is, he's flexible. He does the jumps. He does the kicks. And they make this dog costume.
It's more like a bug thing. I can show you what it looks like. Have you seen it?
Okay.
Yeah. It's bad.
It's bad.
I mean, it's not the kind of thing where I'm like, oh my God, the ultimate predator is here. I'm not looking at that feeling. It looks sort of like a jaguar, right? Like a sort of human jaguar.
Yeah, it's like a lycanthrope more than anything else. Let's take a second here and dig in on using Van Damme too, but let's dig in on the Predator design a little bit in this moment, because that's a fucking another huge. He's like, Arnold's like, this sucks. Want me to talk to my friend Stan Winston, the best? And they're like, sure. And when you hear Winston in the If It Bleeds doc say, I was really inspired and by a picture of a Rastafarian warrior that was on a producer's wall. And you go, I'm sorry, what? And that's what kicked him off. He drew it on a fucking plane.
Yeah.
Sitting next to James Cameron. Jim Cameron looks at what he's drawing and he's like, oh, that's cool. And he's like, I'm trying to figure out the mouth. He goes, and James Cameron says, I always want to do something with mandibles. And then Winston goes in, draws the fucking mandible, the iconic mouth predator.
Yep.
He fucking... That's Jim Cameron. And that's because Arnold is so likable and just did such good work with those guys that they're like, yeah, we'll fucking take a crack at it.
Yeah.
And it makes the movie up fucking 33% better.
But once again, it's like they have this bad design. They hired JCVD. JCVD was trying so hard to break into movies.
Jackie Birch puts it as that he would just come to her office and like jump in the air and do kicks and be like, come on, don't you want to hire me?
Where's
She'd be
the
like,
part
go
for me?"
away.
I know like 5 people who do that at Allison Jones casting now.
Yeah, basically, he was doing exactly that, but with jump kicks.
And so she's like,
And then
look,
she's like, you know what? Here, you want a part? Here's what I could put you in: the monster who fights
Arnie.
And there are a lot of conflicting reports. And
everyone has a different story. On
how
this.
everyone breaks down the timeline of what happened. But basically, he signs on to the movie. He does not understand how invisible he will be physically in this role.
Yeah, he doesn't even know he's got to cover his face.
Right. So he thinks like everyone will see it's me. And they're like, this is great because he moves really well. We'll have a performer in the suit who can move really well.
Right.
He'll be able to do something really distinctive with it. So there's this humongous gap in communication where he's like, I want people to know who I am. And they were like, we just want you to do your fucking thing, but also use your body in the ways we want you to. And he's like, no, I have my own like demo run of like,
This is how I think the Predator would kick or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And because he's little, part of this design, which is entirely different and bad, also is stilts, arm extensions.
Yes.
So he's moving
And
a lot
this
more unnaturally.
Head that goes like up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this. Like the original Predator suit almost looks like a Julie Taymor Lion King costume.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks like something from Broadway.
Or not to open up this bag of worms, but like those droids that fight the Jar Jar people.
Yeah.
Like with that weird like curved head.
Roger.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the weird, like, you know what I'm talking, the Lion King, like they have the
I know
mask
what you're
hanging
talking
over.
about. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
So
Look,
they're
You're talking
like,
about
I mean-
George Santos's Broadway play,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. I just like, it's kind of incredible that there's these two things colliding at the same moment. The design is bad and we've cast the wrong actor.
Right.
If it's only one problem or the other, they maybe hold their nose and like fight through it, or they maybe just go like recast and put a new guy in the same shitty suit.
There's also a story that like he kept swearing and screaming because he was so grumpy when he realized like, oh, I'm not like talking in this movie.
Right.
Like I'm just a stunt performer basically.
No,
Yeah, I see how you sell it to Van Damme. You go, you're going to go fight
You
Arnold.
fight Arnie.
And he's
It's
like,
like-
oh, that is my future.
Because
Yeah.
he thinks like, oh, great, this movie is Arnold versus JCVD. And they're like, no, this movie is Arnold versus some guy in an alien costume.
And mostly invisible right now. And the
Totally.
script is about his cloaking. mostly.
Look, the stunt coordinator says that he threw the head of the costume on the floor and it broke, and the head had cost like 20
They
grand.
went to a costume
and Joel
fitting.
Silver was like, "You are fired. Get off this."
This is
set."
the other thing.
Right.
JJ did like 4 pages just on the JCVD of it all.
Right.
And basically 20 different people have accounts of this was the moment where he got fired or that he quit. And I think the reality is he probably quit 10 times and was fired 10 times
Right.
over the course of like 2 weeks.
Dude, but just listen to the names that Sims is throwing out from the dossier. You got we're saying McTiernan, Van Damme, Arnold, Joel Silver. Like everything is just fucking, this is like peak fucking Hollywood.
Shane
This
Black just like doing coke in a suite in Mexico with Joel Silver being like, I'm not writing fucking jokes for you.
Him saying like the Predator should be a kickboxer, and like I'm just like Joel Silver like rubbing his temples, being like, he's not a kickboxer. And
Right.
Jean-Claude Van Damme supposedly said, "Kiss my balls."
Right? Like everyone is just yelling at each other and like alternating
Kiss
between him
my
quitting
balls.
and them firing him, and they're trying to like work through it. And then it gets to this point of like complete breakdown.
And also, he's 5'6" or whatever.
Right.
He's very small, and someone's like, "Get Harry and the Hendersons in here."
It's
Yes,
like
Get the tallest man
he never
alive.
did principal photography,
No.
but he did do some amount of camera tests.
Yes.
And those were disastrous. And they were like, well, this doesn't work. We're not going to be able to work with him. This isn't effective on screen. Stop all of this. Continue shooting. Focus on everything but the Predator. And we'll get to that later. They go to Rick Baker, who was the first choice, and go like, can you redesign this? He's like, I'm doing Harry and the
did I say
Hendersons.
Stan Winston before? Or
No, they come back around to
Okay,
Stan
yeah,
Winston.
yeah.
Rick
Right.
Baker was the first choice, but he's
He's
doing
busy.
Harry.
I get
Harry
those
and
two
the
guys
Hendersons.
confused all the time.
Well, they're the big two.
But then they recommend this guy, Peter Michael Hall, Peter Brandon Hall,
No, the guy who plays the Predator,
Anthony Michael Hall.
Anthony Michael.
Kevin Peter Hall.
Kevin
He's
Peter Hall.
7'2".
Yes.
He obviously is Harry of Harry and the Hendersons. He's done like some Star Treks. You know, he's a tall man who can wear a suit.
A gentle giant, someone who everyone
but can move.
who worked with him speaks so fucking highly
Very,
of this
very
guy.
well regarded.
Died tragically young, but
because if you're that fucking tall,
It happens to our giants.
You know,
Yeah.
although
we lose all of our best giants.
he got a blood transfusion related case of HIV.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
man.
like it's
Just
not from his
absolute
height.
like insane luck.
Yes.
Yeah, bad luck.
the story from If It Bleeds is like they're super impressed that they saw the hotel bring a second queen size mattress into his room, and like his hotel room was mostly a bed because it just had two queens stacked next to each other.
JJ put this in the dossier and it genuinely made me tear up. I find this very touching. It's an interview with Kevin Peter Hall, or part of a larger Predator piece from July 87 in Fangoria, when this movie was coming out. So he's speaking as just like, I'm doing an interview as the creature guy in the suit, unaware of what legacy this movie is going to have. Right.
I don't realize I'm going to be the original Predator.
Right.
An iconic monster.
25 movies will be launched off this.
Yeah. And he talks about the process of the suit getting redesigned, him coming in. And he said, I wasn't just shuffling around in a monster suit. I was kind of a puppeteer from the inside, attempting to give the creature some measure of personality, as well as a Jaws-like sense of terror. There are a lot of subtle things, arm and body movements that I threw in that will probably be missed because of the emphasis on the action. But if you look closely, you'll see some interesting little bits that give the Predator a definite personality. And he's just like, I tried to do stuff. Who knows if any of it will register? And you're like, 35 years later, every other actor who plays a Predator is clearly working off of the language he developed. And
100%.
No one does it as well as him.
No.
You're like, everyone is still doing like his finger movements.
Is there anything better than someone who's like in the weeds artistically and humble at the same time?
Totally.
It's like one of my favorite genres of interviews.
He's like sort of like, I really thought about this and I tried to develop a language and we'll see if any of it comes across. No one's coming to the movie for this. And then you're like, every 5 years, Fox throws so much money at like, build a new suit.
It's
have a
true.
new take.
Yeah. And
this Predator's big now.
And none of them ever like move as well as he did.
does make the movie because everything before the final showdown is good.
Yeah.
And like the Predator being this unseen monster is cool. But if the final showdown sucked, this movie wouldn't be a classic.
And the design is great. And like another Hail Mary pass of like fixing that before the bad one ends up on camera.
Yeah.
But also it's like, if you have a guy who isn't giving as good of a performance in those final 10 minutes when he's visible and sort of like conveying that much physically and that much menace and moving in such a bizarre alien way, you're like, this doesn't become like an important part of pop culture. The Predator as like a creature, as an idea.
Right.
He's the titular Predator.
And even just the close-ups where it's like the only thing you're seeing from him are his eyes.
Right.
He's like a fucking emoting a lot.
It's crazy that Predator and Alien were two franchises that have like two great movies. Three, I know. Three for some, but then they like weave together and are like intertwined for a while. Then like in the recent years have split back off, and Prey is good and like Prometheus is kind of
found
good.
themselves.
Yeah,
again.
it's like they both. It was like like a couple that got together and had a toxic relationship, and they're like, I think we're better off friends. And they kind of just go away, and they both like have these great third acts in their lives. It's
now
like,
I want to see
like a Nancy
the
Myers
way we
movie.
were about Alien and Predator.
Yeah.
The two characters.
Just them coming back together again and again. Yeah. Over the years.
But yeah, this movie basically had this like bifurcated shoot where they just had to shoot around. We haven't solved the actor. We haven't solved the suit. We need to go back to the drawing board. Stan Winston's on board. He'll come up with something, but it's not going to be ready for a while.
Along the Jaws parallel, right? Bruce was fucking breaking down, so they had to figure out ways to shoot the movie without the shark in the shot. And that if Bruce is in the movie anymore, the movie sucks.
Beyond that, it's 100 degrees all the time.
Yes.
They decide to shoot in, like west coast of Mexico, which has, deciduous trees.
Right.
All the leaves have fallen off the trees. They have guys with 40 bags of leaves, like spreading leaves around because it needs to look like the jungle when they're not really even shooting in the proper jungle.
But David, why did they film there rather than the east side of Mexico, which is where McTiernan wanted to film?
Go ahead. Tell me why.
Because that area where they were had nicer hotels. So Joel Silver made that choice.
Right. Exactly. And they were like, yeah, fuck it. We'll just get leaf bags.
Right. And day 5, when the movie is starting to collapse and JCVD is getting fired and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board with the suit. They also were spending so much time and money having like PAs throw leaves to set up every scene.
This is what I'm saying.
That he was just like, we have to change locations.
They're shooting at a 45-degree angle because like everything is on a crazy hill.
Right.
They're all getting bitten by like red ants and shit.
They do finally like move to a lusher area after that first week or so of filming. Because on the commentary, McTiernan will point out like this is from those first 5 fucking days. The amount of times I had watch a kid put a leaf on the ground.
And yeah, that's true. And like McTiernan says, like, look, I see the movie in my head when I'm making it. I'm one of those guys, right?
Yeah.
So I think the extreme frustration of like, you don't understand, it has to look like this. And they're like, well, I'm covered in ants right now. I'm doing my best, John. I'm not sure it's going to look like how it is in your head, is like what all the crew are saying to him.
McTiernan
Let me get Anthony on the phone.
McTiernan talks about like when he reads a script, his term is, I see the movie on the back of my eyelids. Like I see the whole movie.
Yes,
I see exactly what I want it to be, which makes sense because his movies are like so immaculately constructed with like these ensemble character pieces, with like incredibly complicated visual geography and like story beats that have to be conveyed silently or through like camera movements or things like that, that he just sees it all. And then he's like, then the challenge is communicating that to other people. And he doesn't like to storyboard because he's like, I'm not just thinking about how visually I would approach a scene. I'm thinking like exactly what lens I would choose from the get-go. And if I'm hiring a storyboard artist, I have to explain to them the spherical distortion of the lens I want to use and say, well, draw it this way with this in relation to this. Because even if they were 6 feet apart, when I filmed, it's going to be like this. And he's like, it takes longer to explain it to the guy in order to draw it. So the only time I'll do storyboards is if it's effect shots.
Right.
And they need some sort of like, visual reference to be able to budget it out. I rewound this to try to see if I could get the text clearly. And McTiernan will kind of go off on tangents, get distracted in the middle of the commentary, a thing I don't relate to at all. I think if you start a point, you have to finish it clearly, concisely, with no jokes.
Listeners are just steering their cars into oncoming traffic at this point.
But he talks about
another Blanky related pileup.
I couldn't tell if I missed it or he actually just didn't explain it. But like another way in which this movie kind of gets like saved from calamity. It was Boss Film who did the special effects for this, which was Richard Edlund's company, which is like one of the best companies. One of the big ILM expat companies of the early 80s. And Fox obviously wanted them to do the Predator vision, thermal vision effect.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, we know how to do this. There's the real kind of equipment that like actual thing people use. So we have this giant camera and it's connected to an umbilical cord. And we have to get it on a truck. And it can only go 4 feet away from the truck. And it takes like 2 days to get one shot. But it will actually measure the heat so we can get the genuine image of what you want. And they get there, and because it's like 100 degrees in the desert, the environment and the bodies are the same temperature. So they're like, we have a solution for this. Here's what we're going to do. Before every shot, we're going to spray down the environment we're shooting in with ice water. And then we're going to build a fire. And we're going to have all the actors stand right next to the fire. And the trees are covered in ice water. And the actors next to the fire, we make them run in. We get the shot. And he was like, after 4 weeks, we'd gotten 2 shots. And they were incredibly expensive. And McTiernan was like,
we cannot do it this way.
We cannot. Yes, and he was also like, they looked bad. They looked bad.
I'm sure they did.
Because they looked real.
Right. So McTiernan, coming off of commercials, goes to a commercial special effects house.
Hell yeah.
Behind Fox's back, because he's like, they wouldn't want me going to someone who isn't like a serious outlet. And he's like, let's just do like the fucking down and dirty version of this.
Right.
Let's like own the pixelation. Let's just like fuck with it. And they were basically like, we have this red velvet suit. If you wear the red velvet suit, then it can like be like this.
Because it's the furthest from the green foliage and the blue sky. Like that's like in order to key it out.
Well, I think almost all the thermal vision then they ended up doing in controlled like backlot environments. Because you see less of what's actually going on around it. So it also was able to like break it into a different unit. But he basically just figured out the most lo-fi way to do it. And then rather than getting approval from Fox, which they never would, just brought it back to them. It was like, look, I just did like 10% of it in the time it took those guys to do 1% and for none of the money, and it looks cooler.
Yeah. And so the Predator vision itself is a special effect that's a huge win.
Yeah.
The vision of the Predator's cloaking device, is another special effect that is ahead of its time and a huge win.
JJ put in here the explanation of how they do the cloaking thing, which sounds like the guy basically figured out a glitch that he could exploit to create the ripple effect. It's a nightmare.
You can look it up. I don't want to describe it because it takes too long, unless you really want to. Like, the way they did it is basically, right, you shoot it like over and over and over again at different speeds, right?
It's like basically doing like inverted matte lines.
Jesus.
It's very cool. The effect is awesome.
Incredible.
It really works.
It's one of those special effects that like you can't do now
No.
with all the money in the world.
No.
You know, like even now they're like, yeah, well, let's just do what they did. You know, we'll
Right.
make it look like
It's
that.
something that only comes out of a weird quirk of how like film processing
that I think was
works.
annoying.
Yes.
Like, you know, like there's a reason you would never do it again, but like it looks so cool.
It also solves
Maybe we
this
have to look
problem
it up.
that a lot of movies have when depicting invisibility, where it's like either you're showing me nothing,
Right.
I'm looking at a blank screen,
Or
which
I'm
is
looking at footprints is usually one of the
right,
giveaways.
or I'm looking at like a translucent blue spectery version of the character, and you're like, well, then they're not invisible. I can see them.
It's like, okay, so it's you make someone wear a bright red suit. You remove the red with chroma key stuff, so there's an empty area. Then you repeat the take with a different lens, and you combine the takes optically, and like the shape is suddenly visible if you do that. Is how I don't know. It sounds like a pain in the ass.
I will say on this viewing is the first time I really noticed in the end when the Predator passes Arnold, and Arnold's on the other side of the cloak.
Yes.
And that's the first time I was like, that's even crazier, right?
Oh, it's insane.
Like, how the fuck did they do that
Insane.
shot? Yeah.
But it's also an effect where you're like, if I were in the jungle and I saw this with my eyes, I'd be like, I might be.
Am I going crazy? Right.
I'm hallucinating. Like it does. It
It kind of has
the
that
air
like
is
heat,
thick.
that heat wave
exactly.
energy. Yeah.
You believe that these guys could see it and not think, wait a second, is there an alien in the forest with us?
That's why they're shooting at leaves.
Right.
And
Yeah.
What does she say? She said the jungle is attacking.
She
us,
said the
basically.
jungle
Right.
has came out and attacked me.
And like Weathers finally sees like a predator, you know, sees the guy, the monster himself, but that's late in the film.
Late.
Another thing. Okay, so they've been shooting for 48 days.
Yeah.
Their shooting schedule was 56 days. They
This
shot
was
less
the
than
point
half the
I
movie.
pinned earlier.
Exactly. So the big sequence where they blow up the, you know, the guy, where they the big attack sequence.
This whole time, because they still haven't solved the Predator problem, Fox is like, is this movie like a
Right. They're
a
getting
mess.
nothing, I assume, in dailies. Basically, they're probably just getting dailies of guys like with big knives talking to each
I
other.
think McTiernan is also a guy who like shoots for the edit in such a specific way that if you're watching the dailies, it's kind of confusing because it only makes sense when he puts it together.
Right, you're not going to piece like, oh, this is obviously that scene. Yeah.
Right. So they're like watching footage that doesn't make sense to them. The Predator thing still hasn't been solved. They were like, is this maybe a cut our losses movie? Do we Zaslav the hell out of this fucking thing? Right.
Don't zazz me, baby.
Right. And yes, he's like a week away from what was supposed to be his full allotted production time, and like less than half the movie's been filmed. And they're like, Silver's begging him basically,
eye candy.
you have
Something.
to let me like just outsource second unit, one big sequence off your plate. So the raid of the compound is all done by a second unit team that he was obviously like overseeing.
Yeah.
But all of those guys came from the A team. He was like, we need to hire TV guys who can work fast and just get this done.
What's your job? I drive Jeeps into things that explode.
Exactly.
A-team,
I've been doing that for years.
I direct people falling out of towers. It's like the most A-team shit ever. Because A-team
100%.
has that same G.I. Joe disease where no one ever dies.
So
you get people blown out of things is
Right.
famously
But
what
this
they
is
do.
like a more violent A-team sequence that
Right,
doesn't have
Joel
to deal with TV
Silver is
censorship.
screaming more blood.
More
apparently.
blood.
Yes.
And they're getting probably the amount of money that they get for a season to do this one sequence. And these guys know how to do it so fast.
And they've got fucking legendary action talent, a great fucking location.
And they get to use all the first team actors. Like they're not using doubles. They're like, no, you get like a week, build this around each guy having a big moment in this sequence.
This is like one of my favorite things, watching millions of action movies. The formulaic shit I do enjoy is like, open on a mission, let's see our guys crush it, or our guy or our person.
right.
Let's see this person absolutely crush it. Great shot.
This is what
Dave's
it
got a
looked
picture
like.
of the red velvet
This is
suit.
what they're seeing when they make this movie. They must just be thinking like, this is going to be the worst piece of shit.
Pin in the A-team thing for a second, because I want to say this red velvet suit thing before I forget. McTiernan's big thing he was talking about was the struggle of like, how do you make the Predator move fast? Because the suit weighs 200 pounds.
Is this the monkey thing?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, we have to find ways. So he was like, I built this insane like bungee rig where
Right,
all
'cause-
the weight was supported by like these cranes and the bungee, like industrial, like
Yes.
400-foot bungee ropes. So there's one shot when he's running away on the rocks that he's like, that's the one shot where I got the fucking bungee thing to work. You successfully see him moving fast on his feet. It only worked for 5 seconds, right?
At one point, they tried to put a monkey in the suit.
So the big thing was for the thermal vision, he was like, we can get away with making the Predator move fast in the thermal vision. We'll have a monkey wear a smaller version of the red velvet suit, and then he could be climbing in the trees. And he was like, we put this red velvet suit in the monkey. And the monkey had him on the set, and he was like running around the trees. He was great on camera. We put him in the suit. We put him in the suit. He comes out. You just saw it in his eyes. He was so embarrassed to be wearing this suit. He got sheepish.
He tried to take it off. Like, right? He was just like, no.
But not even like he was like revolting and like, you hear a lot of stories of like, oh, an animal and they get touchy and then they start throwing shit.
Right.
It wasn't like a nope situation.
No.
The monkey was just sort of like, this thing is like really
Are you serious?
It's kind of unbecoming.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. And so
Can I read for Dutch?
I didn't get my monkey footage. But the A-Team sequence is so big because it's like the one set piece that has the energy of the fucking handshake, right? And you need it because it's the last moment where these guys are in the movie they think they're in.
Let's watch these guys kick ass for a minute.
Right, which I think McTiernan is like so hyper conscious of not wanting to fall into the like America Hoorah fascism shit.
Ho war movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he makes this big point in the commentary of like, my most pointed thing was the sequence where they just run their guns for 5 minutes is them shooting at leaves and then they're out of bullets and they look stupid.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I do the same bit in Die Hard. This was this era where the studios were like, they want the Rambo moment. Audiences want the Rambo moment of them just like unloading bullets everywhere. And he's like, the 2 times I've done it, they're shooting at no people. In Predator, it's at leaves, and in Die Hard, it's at the glass. And he's like, and then people start copying my moment because I made it so much bigger and longer than everyone else. Except when other people do it, they put human bodies in front of it. And then it just starts being uncomfortable.
Right.
I'm thinking right now of the Hot Shots part 2 when the boat fills with magazines.
But you're like,
starts sinking.
This action sequence, he would have been a little more conservative about it, you have to imagine.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that it would have taken him 6 months just to get this sequence done, it helps to have this one sequence done by kind of junkier guys.
I will say the shot when all of them are crawling in camo, you're like, that looks fucking awesome. It's like an overhead shot and Dutch is already there and everyone just kind of scurries up next to him.
Yeah.
And you're like, this fucking rules. The second Arnold's like, you guys guards, you guys tower. No one do anything till I blow the fuel pump. You're like, oh, fuck
it's just like, it's unbelievable little boy shit. And it does feel so G.I. Joe. And it feels like, oh, here's the button to like activate the trap door that makes the bad guys fall down.
Right.
And like fire spring-loaded missiles at them.
Wait, is this truck just here running? Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
We have so much fun with it, but then of course it ends with Arnold being like, what the fuck was this, by the way? That's why it works.
Yes.
Is that you can have the moment after
total deflation.
of Weathers being like, I'm sorry, this is kind of bullshit. Like I
also,
basically
how gleefully they're like engaging in this, which is then going to get flipped on them of like, this is like a sport for you. This has been gamified. Like the crew in Predator acts, even when they're just in the chopper at the beginning, the way like my buddies and I would at a laser tag birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like, we're going to fucking annihilate out there. And you're like, yeah, but you have real bullets and you're shooting at like real people and you don't even really have a grasp of the geopolitics of the mission you're on. And they're just sort of fucking high-fiving each other. And then immediately it's like, guess what? You guys are fucking in the middle of someone else's game. This Predator's just doing this for no fucking
You guys were
reason.
actual pawns. The thing that is going to kill you is just a bad, wrong place, wrong time.
You were political pawns just to like get a job done. And we're being lied to. And now, by the way, you guys are the targets in someone else's fucking game.
I love when in this sequence when Jesse gets shot, I ain't got time to bleed. And then he's like, do you have time to get in undercover? Like he's like, do you have time to hide? And he fucking launches like 3 grenades up there, and you just debris flies off, and you just know that some dude up there was absolutely pink misted. It fucking rolls.
They built this gun to be like, what's the biggest possible gun we could,
What
like the
is the
biggest
name
gun
of
you've
the
ever
gun?
seen in a movie.
It's a minigun, the Gatling gun.
But they have a
his
name for it.
it's-
What is it? Fucking I'll look it up.
Oh, it's like,
Because they do the
it's
whole
like Little
thing.
Sweetie or some shit.
Yeah.
Like
Old Painless.
Old Painless.
But they build this gun for him. I think he is physically the biggest guy in
He's huge.
the movie. He's so big.
No, what's his name is? Billy is bigger.
Oh,
Sonny.
Billy's like 7'8".
Sonny is like a legit fucking huge guy.
Yes.
And terrifying. And of course, I think this is like, this is how the movie's so in my bones. I'm like, I know this is common knowledge, but I will throw out contractually, Sonny had to have a bodyguard, not to protect him, but to protect other people from him.
Do you know this, Ben? This is real ass shit.
This is real. The studio would only let him be in the movie if they hired a guy to make sure he didn't hurt anybody or like fuck anybody up.
All the guys like went out drinking in town like the first weekend before filming started, and he caused so much trouble that they were like, if you don't have him watched at all times by a guy who's even bigger than him, he's going to end up arrested before this movie is over.
Okay, he's officially my favorite now.
I mean, he's awesome in the movie too.
He did porn. He posed for Playgirl.
He did that. That was before
He ran
this.
for governor of Kentucky at one point, being like, well, if Jesse Ventura can do it, it was like, bro, you have a criminal record.
But Arnold gets elected. Jesse gets elected governor. Arnold gets elected governor, right? I think SNL did a sketch where it was Carl Weathers saying, and now I'm going to run for governor.
Right,
Anyone in the cast
it's an obvious
something
joke,
like that. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Everyone was doing that. Billy straight up did run for governor 3 times and lost on like very controversial platforms.
Yeah. I don't think his politics are good.
No, I think in fact they were quite bad.
And the politics of this movie and the whole G.I. Joe-ification of these characters, he's native and a tracker and like and like spiritual and like communicates with the beast, like
right, which is like straight up a G.I. Joe character.
I mean,
named Spirit. I think.
Yes, we talk about it on Action Boys all the time.
Yeah,
there was a period for like maybe 15 years in movies where Asian people and natives were magical.
But there was also Warpath of the X-Men.
Yes, that's true. And Thunderbird. Yes, the
right,
Native
brothers,
American characters.
Yes.
Yeah, the Proud Stars.
The Proud Stars.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a sort of Apache warrior type, like 70s stock action figure, right? Tarantino loves to like jokingly play with that kind of like Brad Pitt's character in Inglourious Bastards is like, right, he's supposed to be, I'm 1/8 Apache or something like that.
Well, the Billy Jack is right.
It's at least a diverse cast.
It is.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's like
for the time.
Oh, yeah. For the time. Yeah.
For all the way up through like the mid-aughts, this is considered a diverse
basically
movie,
until the Fast and Furious.
Well, also,
it does have one woman who's mostly like going like, what the fuck did you say?
Or
that.
not talking.
Eight different like fucking roid heads get to shake her at different points in the movie.
Like she does not have a ton to do. She's a good actor. I mean, she had a great career after this.
She's a real actor. For sure. And like she's an Independent Spirit nominee and all that, she had a good career.
And of course, 2023 topped it off by playing Blue Beetle's mom.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I need to see that movie.
Dude, I'll say on record, holy shit, that movie was so much better than I expected it to be.
Fun.
I've heard it's fun.
There's a joke where a girl, the Blue Beetle sister's like, yo, I got to take a dump. Can you watch the door? And I was like, this is so childish, but also grown up and a real understanding of like comedy.
There's real specific characterization in that movie.
Yeah.
Also,
and George Lopez is on fire.
It's unbelievable.
Yes. I love George Lopez.
George Lopez is
all right, I'll check it out. You're winning me over.
It's on Max, baby.
George Lopez
Zazzy,
is not only
thank
like
you, Zazzy.
landing every joke, but you're like, there's like a weird amount of depth to this character.
I cried during Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
I was into it. I was caught up.
Looking at the box office.
David, it did okay.
It did not.
David has points. That's why he's mad.
Yeah, exactly.
That he refuses to watch it now.
I'm the one WB guy who's still trying to make the company money. Everyone else got fired.
He went long on Blue Beetle on the Hollywood Stock Exchange. He's been smarting from it all summer. David?
Yes.
You like to treat yourself, right?
Absolutely.
I feel like you're the one friend in our friend group, Blank Check Productions, that likes to treat yourself.
Got to do it.
Here's some things I know about you. You love to get a pedicure and opt for the extra 10-minute foot massage with green tea infused lotion.
I mean, that's very specific, but sure.
You refuse to make coffee at home because that fancy coffee shop is right downstairs, the one that serves everything on pure ivory.
Yeah, that's me.
You opt for that extra legroom seat on the plane because your vacation starts now.
I do that also because I'm quite tall.
Okay, well, that's a humble brag. You always buy double at a sale because it's actually like saving money.
I'm going to tell you, I don't think I've ever done that.
I got you dead to rights.
Really odd.
I named 4 things that you specifically do, none of which are prompts from ad copy.
Never.
Well, David, if you treat yourself to the top options with everything in life, why settle when finding a doctor?
It is my
Why
health.
is that when you settle?
That's a good point.
For less.
I should go for the best.
Don't you want the extra legroom of medical care?
Well, I just don't know where to look, so I just kind of, wing it.
Creak. Enter ZocDoc.
Hello.
Hello, I am ZocDoc.
Are you the place where you can find and book tens of thousands of top tier doctors, all with verified patient reviews?
Yes, it is your health after all.
Okay, well, here's some things I've heard about ZocDoc. You're a
David,
free.
don't go settle. Go for the best. Find the right doctor for you. Come to me.
You're a free app and website where I can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near me and instantly book appointments with them online.
Got more options than you know.
Once you find a doctor you want, you can book them immediately. No waiting on hold with a receptionist.
I hate it.
They all have verified reviews from real actual patients.
I love it.
And you can filter for your insurance, for where they're located, and if they treat any condition you're searching for. Wait time typically to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is just between 24 and 72 hours. That's it.
That's it. And look, worst case
Sometimes
scenario,
same day.
you land in the middle there. You got a little Nolte Murphy on your hands.
Exactly. You could even throw in another 48 hours.
Well, then we're going over.
Well, I'm just saying if you're watching them. Those films are actually about 2 hours.
Oh, so maybe in a best case scenario, you watch 2 Walter Hill buddy cop films, and ZocDoc has responded to you. Okay.
Listen. I've used ZocDoc. It's really easy to use. You should too. Go to ZocDoc.com/check and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/check. ZocDoc.com/check.
You said download by accident.
Download it.
You're getting Z-pilled.
You should download ZocDoc.
Zai.
It's a great cast.
Yeah.
Bill Duke obviously is like he's a great actor, like who's always so arresting physically and like his eyes are amazing. But he's also like one of the great black filmmakers like in American history.
Because McTiernan went to AFI as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think Bill Duke and Bill Duke overlapped, or Bill Duke was a year or two ahead of him.
Works.
I mean, that's why obviously Bill Duke was in good graces with Fox and Schwarzenegger because of Commando. But McTiernan was like, I fucking love that guy. And that's like much like bringing Shane Black on set, you're only going to benefit from having the mind of Bill Duke, filmmaker, also there.
Him being like his physical type is so specific that he's not a fucking musclehead.
No.
But he seems so hyper capable and scary. He just seems like a fucking hard man.
Quietly 6'3".
Yeah.
There's something so deeply haunted about him.
His eyes, he's got like Droopy the dog face, like a hangdog face.
I mean, he looks incredible now. Like the current day Bill Duke, like him in High Flying Bird, where now he's sort of gaunt.
It's amazing in that movie.
No one looks better with bloodshot eyes than Bill Duke.
Yeah, he's an old hound dog.
My brother Jamesy and I exclusively refer to him as the Great Bill Duke.
He is the Great Bill Duke.
Like that is his full proper name, and we're like, you know who's good in that fucking movie? The Great Bill Duke. You know who they just cast in this thing? The Great Bill Duke.
One of our biggest controversies was in that episode of the Predator episode on High and Mighty. We kept calling his character Duke, not Mac, and we had to like issue a formal apology.
You want to call him Duke,
right? It makes sense. It's a GI Joe. It's literally a GI Joe name.
Yeah,
but Mac is a great name. Everyone's got great names too.
Yes,
Billy Hawkins. It's fucking Duke Dylan.
But I just
wait. What's Ventura's name? Blaine.
McTiernan's like insanely good ensemble thing is just from that opening chopper sequence where they're basically 3 lines of dialogue, maybe at most.
Yeah.
And it goes on for a long time.
Looks awesome in that red light.
Looks awesome, but they basically admitted the footage was so good that we didn't want to, we just want to use as much of it as we could. So that sequence is like 5 or 6 minutes long.
All the chopper flying from a distance shit looks so awesome. Choppers landing.
He cast guys with different looks, with different energies. In that one scene, everyone gets like a handle. Yeah. Right? They get like at least one thing where you're like, okay, Shane Black's reading the comics is going to tell the joke, right? Like this guy looks
Bill Duke's
like
dry shaving. He's a psycho.
Right. There's just like one thing.
When he drops the razor, you know he's doomed.
Each guy does one thing where you're like, okay, now I remember who he is.
Blaine wants everyone to be sexual tyrannosaurs. He spits on Dylan's foot.
Right.
And says some shit. They say some shit to Dylan like, you fucking CIA fuck, we don't trust you.
I wanna zoom out for a second here, because I knew Predator as like iconography, right? And like Alien versus Predator. And then until I was like 13 or 14, I think I always was like, well, there's Predator, which is some franchise like Alien, where there's another weird looking alien that like kills people. And then I know there's like a video there's a VHS cover I recognize that is Schwarzenegger in the crosshairs, and it's just called
Crazy
Predator.
neon picture.
Right. And I was like, I think conflating that Predator with Commando, and I was like, they're two different things. There's like some Schwarzenegger action movie called Predator, and there's whatever franchise The Predator comes from.
right.
Fair, you know.
And when I was 13, my friend Lucky Gretzinger at summer camp was like, when Arnold Schwarzenegger fights the Predator. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? And he was like, that's the same movie. And I was like, I've only seen pictures of Arnold with a bunch of commandos looking cool. And then I've seen action figures of the Predator. Right?
That's such a funny way in. Yeah.
That's the same movie. And he was like, that's the whole pitch on that movie is the first half of it just feels like some Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. And then boom, suddenly you realize you're in a totally different film. And like the reality's changed. And now it's like a horror movie. They're getting plucked off one by one. The fundamental tension of this movie in development, in shooting, all the way through editing is that McTiernan was like, I'm making a horror film.
Right.
I like the monster movie part of this.
Right.
And
This is and then there were none. They're going to get picked off.
And
Yes.
Joel Silver was like war movie
Right.
that happens to have an alien in it.
Right.
And both guys are pushing so hard on their thing that it's a rare movie that does feel like it's successfully doing both things at the same time.
Right. It is two kind of different
And the
little
tug
movies.
of war is interesting.
It is, but what else happens, Griffin? They fucked up the Predator design. They don't have a monster.
Yeah.
They have to shut down production because they don't have a monster.
Yes.
McTiernan cuts what he has together, which is basically probably the first 2/3 of the movie.
They're at the
right?
point where they're like borderline, we could scrap it and save our
Shows
losses.
it to Fox, and
Yeah.
Fox is like, this looks good. Like, fine, here's your money, go finish it.
Right.
And I think for the last part of the movie, which
They're
is the most
so empowered.
horror-y,
Yes.
McTiernan, finally actually has like, okay, they want what I'm doing.
He had
Like,
wind in his sails.
Yeah,
he had the
exactly.
support. He had cut some shit together.
And of
was-
course, by then they have a monster, like,
Right.
which
Right.
is
So
cool.
they were suddenly like, this design rules. This shit's cutting together well. This actually might be a hit. This movie is like better than we thought it was going to be, than we commissioned it to be.
Right.
Like it's over delivering.
just to jump back to the Predator for
Yeah.
a second, we said when he looks at things in heat, they look at things in heat vision, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
When you look at their cloaking, we didn't talk about the sound design of the Predator is so fucking awesome. Yes, dude. The whip cracks, the fucking, even the sound all his guns make, the parrot gun, the sound it makes when it moves, his like sort of distorted repetition of other things that the people have said in
So
the movie.
cool.
It's so fucking cool.
It's freaky.
It's really spooky.
When he takes out the toolkit to stitch up his own wounds, it's all real veterinarian's equipment. And McTiernan was like, you have to convey these complicated things to an audience really quickly, where it needs to like look unlike medical equipment they've seen, but it also needs to be recognizable as medical equipment, which is
Dude.
the specific line they're like towing on every element of his
I'm
like
thinking
existence.
the exact same thing you're thinking there when the countdown thing goes off on his arm. And it's like, there's not real numbers, but when the first one disappears, even Dutch is like, well, I think when all three disappear, this is going to blow up.
He said,
Right.
we were so fucking
Right.
worried about that. And we go into the first test screening being like, the nuclear
get it?
bomb
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not
yeah.
going to work and we're going to have to figure out how to recut it. And he was like, they understood it immediately. I couldn't believe it. It was like shot in the dark. We were ready to rework it. It's fairly complex. It has not been set up earlier in the film. And you like just go like cut in tight to a bunch of alien numerical symbols on a gauntlet. And the audience was like, I understand what's going on here. But wait, the thing I was going to say, going to this final section of the movie, which like a lot of it was shot chronologically.
Right.
As it's going along, they're moving to the better location. They're getting wind under their sails. They're getting more movie done. There's this
Conditions
final
have improved. The foliage has
investment
improved.
of money.
Ants are gone.
Yes.
I don't know if the ants were gone.
The other thing McTiernan said is like Arnold slims down as the movie goes on. By the
He
end of it,
does,
he's
yeah.
looking really gaunt in the face, which plays into him being kind of haunted of like, this guy's maybe like, he's collecting PTSD in real time.
Right, yeah.
Here's this guy who's like served in Vietnam and still treats everything like, you know,
He's
like a
failing,
night
I
on the
get it.
town.
Yeah,
Right.
right, right.
Like this is gonna like be point of no return for him. And it was Arnold went out to a restaurant and got quote unquote Montezuma's revenge.
They call it traveler's diarrhea in IMDb trivia, and I'm
Yes.
proud of them. Yeah.
McTiernan makes a point of saying, I think Montezuma's revenge is bullshit. I've shot other movies in Mexico since then. I now know how to do it. You like basically hire one restaurant to be your catering for the entire production, and you just control that restaurant. The only people who get diarrhea when they go to Mexico are tourists. He's like, natives do not get diarrhea from their own food. It's only the tourist trap restaurants.
Right.
You have to find legitimate restaurants. Arnold went to some shitty like fucking tourist trap restaurant with his boys. And then
That's probably true. I mean, it's often a water thing in another country. It's like, you know, whatever. Even if you eat a salad or something, maybe they washed it.
Or the ice cubes in your drink.
Right.
But he was like, what you're seeing on screen, his gauntness isn't from him being sick. It's that he got sick the one time at the beginning of the shoot and then got so on edge that he didn't want to eat during filming.
Right.
So he's actually just kind of starving himself out of fear.
And he already was cutting down a little bit to play Dutch because he thought like Dutch wouldn't be too huge and buff. And so he was already kind of like trying to lean out and, you know, and so then he leans into that and then it adds so much. And then when he's caked in mud, he doesn't look like, you know, a fucking Stretch Armstrong doll. You know, he looks like a fucking guy caked in mud.
And especially in comparison to Commando, it's like opens with him like holding the fucking tree trunk over his head.
One of the best character introductions in an action movie ever. He just comes back, chainsaw in one hand, tree trunk on his shoulder, and he's like, "My daughter, I hope no one kidnaps you today."
McTiernan,
insane sequence.
McTiernan's like, I get it. That's cool. It works for that movie. We need to like set you up as more of a normal guy in this film.
You get a red polo.
Right.
And you can have a cigar and sunglasses. Don't worry.
Because we have to like sort of like break your soul as the movie goes on. And there has to be this human triumph of like you pushing through this.
When he's, I mean, I've, you know, yes, they fooled the Predator's vision by dumping him in mud. Like it's this inadvertent thing. But when he's set up the trap and he's lying there and he's like, come on, kill me, you know, like, he sells that he's kind of gone crazy by that point. Like it totally works both in terms of his mania of like, I've almost got you. And also his mania of like, this is it for me probably, right? Like, he's really good.
And that sequence too, fucking the Predator sells. What is going on?
Predator's really good at the kind of, animal kind of cocking of heads.
Yes. The shit you got to give Hall credit for.
I won't give him credit. I'll give it to Jean-Claude Van Damme.
That is, David.
They knew they wanted someone with at least 3 names to play the Predator, maybe 4.
They're like, you got too many names, JCVD.
What he's saying in that quote, the puppeteering side of it, that he's just like really smart of understanding a visual language that will.
When he's like, come on, and you see the Predator go like, wait a minute, why do you want me to go in there? So
right.
Yeah.
And them realizing that it won't attack them if they're unarmed, like all these fun elements of like, oh, you have to like get into his head as a gamesman.
Right.
Yeah.
And like,
what is the sport of this for him?
It would be so easy for this movie to, like you say, just reshoot something to be like, the audience doesn't get it's a countdown clock. The audience doesn't get that it's the most dangerous game. Like, you know, let's have some computer that goes like target identified, you know.
Continue your hunt, Mr. Predator.
Never does anything like that.
No subtitles.
It's just the weird
and like
triangle.
The last 30 minutes when basically everyone else has died, it's just silent Arnie like going through the physical motions of how to take it down. There's no scene where he's like up against a tree and he's like, okay, Dutch, think.
Yeah.
How do you beat the Predator? You know, like
it's so awesome that like all we've seen is cool gun tech.
Yeah.
All we've seen is giant knives, and they have to like break it down to like wooden sticks, mud.
Fucking Home Alone.
It is, yeah.
Jungle.
A little bit.
Well, it is sort of like it's a kind of rip from Aliens too, right? No. What can we use? Bad language. No pulse rifles. No flamethrowers. No blah blah blah. You know, and it's like, oh shit, we're back to bare bones. You know, like swords only. Like it's like GoldenEye, slappers only.
Their original plan was for the Predators.
Bond should be slappers only. That's what they should announce.
Wouldn't it be really fun if in the new Bond, it's whoever it is, it's Dev Patel, but he's whipping proximity mines relentlessly the whole time, just absolutely nuking everything. There's no like nuance to his act.
How great would it be if they announced the next movie was GoldenEye 64? They go, we're adapting the beloved James Bond entry, one of the last remaining works in the Ian Fleming canon that has yet to be adapted.
Light.
You put a PC-90 to Baron Samedi's head and fucking rip the trigger. Put 80 bullets into, and you stand on the body armor.
The original plan was for the Predator's blood to be orange.
Right.
And it was because
they
were
need a
like,
fun blood color.
Well, they were like, we want an alien blood color, and it can't be green because we're surrounded by green. It won't stand out. And there was some problem, I think, maybe with when they changed the technology of how they were filming the vision, where like they thought it would be easier to key out or whatever it was. It ended up being an issue, and their quick fix was the alien blood in this movie is they just bought glow sticks in bulk and broke them over
and
the
mixed
dude.
it with KY jelly
It's just straight up
or Vaseline. Yeah,
like it's the toxic shit inside of glow sticks.
it's awesome. It looks so fucking cool
looks
when you
cool.
first see it on a leaf.
Right.
And we know aliens need like crazy colored blood, like David said.
Yeah.
But we also,
Klingons
for
take
the
blood.
entire premise of the movie,
Yeah.
we need to know
We need to know
that it can bleed. Yeah.
But also, it's like Materion's like, I saved us so much fucking money here. Like suddenly, none of this has to be in effect. We're just buying glow sticks and pouring them on a guy. It's all in camera, and it has the special effect quality of it's glowing.
Right. They called it like Mountain Dew on set or something
Yeah.
like that. Was like one of the games.
It's crucial that they then, when the movie was done, you know, told Alan Silvestri to put 18 million brass instruments into a tiny room and have them all play at the same time.
The
Like do the
hugest.
loudest score of
Yeah.
all time.
I just really clocked it in this one. The distinctive, especially 80s Silvestri. Dun 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 dun.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's got his thing in all the scores where it's like the short bursts of like,
He like is giving Joel Silver his war movie score
Yeah.
and giving McTiernan his
Both.
like suspense score.
right.
Like he can do both. Right.
This movie is truly both. And it's not like what's interesting is the tug of war between the two creative sides resulted in something in the middle. It's like the movie itself is textually like basically an alien and a soldier fighting for who has control over the movie. And like the
Yeah.
genre
Yeah.
being dictated by who's winning the scene.
What's your guys' favorite death or kill, either by our good
mean,
guys or by the Predator?
The fucking weather's going out arm by arm.
Well, dude, on this, and this is the viewing I noticed where Dutch goes, Dylan, and throws him like, he has like a full long gun already, and he throws him like another little long gun. He's like, this, with the two of them, you could probably beat the Predator. But instead it's like, oh, that's just setting up Chekhov's arm decapitate. Yeah.
But also for him, there's a bit of a suicide thing too. Of
Yeah.
like they're all hitting this like Vietnam, like what we're even doing here in the first place.
Yeah. And now I brought us all here, so if I can go out there and fucking hold shit off,
Right.
I will. Yeah.
I think Ventura getting his chest like caved in is awesome.
It's
Yeah.
so awesome. Watching that gunfire, also famously, that thing is so awesome on camera, but it could not shoot more than 5 seconds at
Yeah.
a time.
Right. I mean, those fucking miniguns are like,
They also
they're
said
ridiculous.
They built it for him of like, we need to build the biggest gun possible that this guy could actually like wield. And then it was too heavy for him to like.
It's so funny how much he likes that he has the big gun.
Yeah.
Like he, in all the fucking behind the scenes stuff when he's talking, he's like, and of course they wanted to give me the biggest rifle because I have actual combat experience. He says in that If It Bleeds, which I think is really funny.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm having a good time down in the jungle, but let's just say I wouldn't actually want these guys on a real mission. It's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I would maybe bring Bill Duke.
Shane Black's got two good jokes in his pocket.
yeah.
No, wait, the prop gun, when he's lugging it around, they basically had to hollow it out. And so when it's firing, they like frame it in a way where you like don't really see that it's being supported by other things, or it's only for a short period of time. But otherwise they had to make sort of like the junked out version of it.
The action is very simple like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the deaths are very simple and like, yeah, just, you know, someone gets blasted and that's it. Like
I love that when they start to realize that the Predators like
collecting trophies.
yeah, and they're like, everyone get up on the bridge. Bill Duke, and again, anyone with specializations. Bill Duke, you do your thing with claymores and traps.
Yeah.
You're the sweatiest, so we'd love to see close-ups of you putting fucking clay and pins and shit. I just just doing that shit. He's like, you get up here on the tower, we'll do this, and like everything's all squared away, and then he just still just comes in, murks people, and they're like, okay, this motherfucker's in the trees now.
Motherfuckers in the trees.
Motherfuckers in the trees.
Apparently Peter Cullen did the Predator voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
According to the IMDb trivia, he had like really fucked his throat up on like on the previous gig.
He primed too hard.
Yeah, so I don't know. He kept screaming Sam Witwicky,
Unicron.
Autobots roll in.
I love those fucking the monologues at the end. Autobots, together we realize the Earth is our home.
Every fucking Transformers movie ends with him being like, I've realized that. And I'm just like, you're still a fucking car. Shut the fuck up. You don't live here.
It is my favorite part of the Transformers franchise. It gets me hard every single time. I mean, it's
For millennia, we have looked.
A young Latino soldier just like saluting Optimus Prime or whatever, and like Bumblebee shakes hands with like a blind Asian non-binary person. It's like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? It's like,
I've learned these human beings have more than meets the eye.
what I've done. Like that fucking
right. 8 Chevys like go through a sunset. Yeah.
Sorry,
Michael
public
Bay is masturbating in his trailer.
Sorry, public transit. We are a car country.
Is there a subway transformer? There should be one.
Oh,
they're
man.
fucking shit.
He's got a British
They're
accent.
definitely train
It's
transformers.
the tube.
Yeah. They're locomotive
Cheerio.
transformers. There must be like an Acela Express
But
transformer.
like, do like that. Do subway transformers. Like that's just a franchise unto itself.
That meme of like blank movie if it came out in 2007 that is just the movie ends like the end of the first Transformers with the drop of the Linkin Park song. It always works for me because I'm like,
really fun.
yeah, that is how every movie should end. Every movie should end with Optimus Prime going like,
Remember when I asked if you thought building this bomb will end the world?
I am become Shiva, destroyer of worlds. Wait, while we're on just stupid internet memes, do you guys know the one where Predator opens up his like explosive arm thing and then he's just like do and starts playing Axel Foley on it?
Very cool.
He's just like cuts to like a guy doing a synth version. It's
the Predator is just funny.
He is.
He is funny. He's
like,
an ugly
reworked into
motherfucker.
comedy.
You are one ugly motherfucker.
The Predator is basically always funny because unlike the Xenomorph, who I love, no disrespect, but there's intelligence to the Predator. There's a strategy.
Well, here's
there's
the thing.
This sort of, what's this guy doing?
Well, I'll say, I think what it is there's the status. The Xenomorph is just trying to survive.
Correct.
It's a motherhood story.
It's a bug. Yeah.
Predator is hunting humans. So it has personality, but it also deserves any fucking ire you want to give it.
Right.
So you can like go like, all right, you sassy little dreadlock fuck. Let's do this thing. I like when he hits when Dutch hits him with the lock.
High status.
Yeah.
It's always funny to make fun of the president.
Right, exactly.
Because they've been elected to the highest office.
When he hits him with the fucking log and he's like, oh shit. I love Arnold's acting there is so awesome. The Predator just takes the log to the dome and he's like, oh boy.
Yeah, he basically sold him on the fake trap. Like this movie could end with, greetings, Dutch. Yeah, the being you encountered, someone explaining what just happened. It doesn't at all.
The whole final chunk was supposed to take place on the alien spaceship.
Right. That
The
makes
final
sense.
battle.
That's the Predator 2 ending.
And the budget got pulled. And McTiernan was like, it was a gift in disguise. I was like really annoyed by it at the time. It's why they put the spaceship at the beginning because they're like, we need some visual representation.
And Prey does the same thing too.
Yeah.
That's Prey's move too. Of like, we landed.
But it's so much better remaining in the woods, in the mud, all of that. But yes, no.
It's just what the fuck are you? And he's just like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to nuke myself instead. Yeah.
Which McTiernan said is based off of a dream he had in high school that he has never gotten over, where he in the dream was suddenly in Los Alamos with Teller telling him we're about
Penn
to.
and Teller?
Yeah, no, because he says he's telling him, so Teller wouldn't talk.
No. Penn is going, listen here. My Jesse
Listen
Ventura
here.
is the same as my Penn Jillette.
Let's go to a sex club.
No, Teller, why am I forgetting his first name? But the character that Safdie plays in Oppenheimer.
Right. Yes. Edmund Teller or whatever his name
We've
is.
developed a new bomb. We're setting it off today. You should run right now.
Hell yeah.
And imagine running away from and I love that when we see Arnold run. Like he looks so fucking cool.
But McTiernan's dream was like, it was just me running high speed for like 5 hours, like just trying to survive this thing. And it had haunted me for decades. This dream I had when I was a teenager. And in this moment, I was like, this is my chance to visualize this thing I've never been able to get out of my head. That feels like personal and visceral to me.
Well, he escapes a nuclear bomb.
Yes, much like John McTiernan did in his teenage dream.
Well, the Mad magazine I have of Predator, which for some reason I own, I have like a big pile of old Mad magazines. That's the big gag at the end where they're like, how did you survive a nuclear bomb? And Arnold's like, I didn't. I skinned my knee. You know, like that's his joke at the end.
He's like in a bet with radiation poisoning.
Right.
McTiernan brags about the fact that no one got injured on this movie. So during all the big action sequences on the commentary, he
What a
goes,
specific brag.
but you'll see like a giant explosion, 4 guys falling over, and then he'll go, and no one got injured. Like he keeps giving himself credit. And then at the end of the commentary, he goes, I'm actually realizing I was lying earlier. I did break my wrist filming this movie.
Yeah, he's in a cast. He's in a cast in If It Bleeds behind the
I
scenes.
fell out of a tree, and I think I just didn't want anyone to know that I'd broken my wrist, because then I would have had to wear someone being injured on the film. So I just kind of like powered through it for a week or two.
Talking about running away from the predator. Great moment that really shined for me in this is when Dutch goes over the waterfall. Already a huge scary thing, but then you're like, well, I put some space in between me and the predator. And then the predator's like, cannonball. Like fuck it, I can just jump in the water. And he's coming out of the water, and you see it on Dutch's face. He's luckily covered in mud and doesn't know about it yet. But you see on his face, he's like, all right, fuck it. Kill me, dude. I am not running anymore. You fucking psycho. You just jumped off that waterfall to hunt me? Damn.
It's such a crazy shot.
It's a cool shot.
Yeah. I mean, he just also looks like when he's in the
That's when
mud,
the cloaking gets hit, and then the force lightning is kind of thrown around a little.
when he's in the mud, it feels like his eyes are glowing.
Yeah. He's got perfect eyes for that role, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me think of Encino Man.
Fair enough.
When Schwarzenegger was at his best,
Remember when the titties are printed in mud on the sliding glass door at the end of it?
talked
John,
about
I brought
it.
this up on an episode
It's
recently.
a huge moment.
It's a huge moment for me. That's how much I was desperate to see boobs. That seeing like an art direction designed set of mud prints was like, oh man,
You could
what if there's a
literally
real cave woman?
Just draw boobs on a piece of paper and have the same impact.
I used to.
Sean, we brought this up on a recent episode, but
So funny.
but that gag of the mud imprint of the boobs, I was watching it at my friend's place on VHS. That scene happens. The movie ends. I go, so did they make a sequel?
Can we wheeze the juice real quick?
Right.
My internet's not working right now. I'm typing in Encino Man 2 and nothing is happening.
And then I remember going to school.
Is it Encino Woman? Like, what is this?
and being like, okay, look, I know this movie came out 5
Encino
years ago.
Woman.
Maybe they would have made a sequel by now already if they were ever going to. But he's naked at the beginning of the movie. So by transitive property,
rules, right? Demand.
the beginning of the second movie would have boobs on camera.
Let's go to the video store now.
Change.org didn't exist. There was nothing I could do to will it into existence. No, Schwarzenegger at his best had this reality distorting effect, right? Where you're like, the comedy of like, I am normal man, right?
Well, yes, by the 90s, right? Where
But
he's
also,
like,
this movie, you never question the fact that he's like Dutch and served in Vietnam with American troops.
no, I don't care.
You don't
It's
care.
awesome. I
You
would,
don't care.
if I'm in an army and that guy shows up, I'm like, can he be in our army, please?
Yeah, I'll go with you.
And he's like, hello. And I'm like, yeah, I'll let that ride.
This
It's
movie
fine.
does not feel the need to like, much like it doesn't have the voiceover explaining the Predator technology or him talking out his strategy alone in the woods. This movie doesn't also feel the
like
need to
it
have.
would be funny if it had like the weird Sarah Connor, like the predators were built as a hunter species, like
Right.
just kind of articulating what's going on.
I don't want any of that.
But it also
Right.
doesn't have the scene where Dylan's like, I mean, thank God America and Austria formed this union
Yeah,
that put our two
No.
units together.
Don't need it.
Right, you're just like, you know what? This guy just has so much fucking integrity and credibility on screen and so much fucking confidence.
Yeah, if he shows up and he's like, I am your leader, and
You're
you're
like,
like,
yeah.
I'm in. Can you just take off your undershirt but then put your vest back on? And he's like, you got it, brother. Dylan, you too. Billy, yeah, don't worry, Chief. I'm already open, ready to cut my chest up. That shit when I was a kid, I thought was the coolest shit. But it also broke my heart because I was like, I truly believed when I was a kid. I was like, Billy has a chance.
McTiernan said this thing that I thought was like quietly profound, where this guy like goes from Juilliard to then being a commercial director. So he's in like heady, emotional, like psychologically grounded theater into being like a visual stylist, right? And he like understands the unique properties of both mediums and how film has to bring the two together. And it's over some scene of Bill Duke where he's talking just how much he fucking loves Bill Duke, just like waxing poetic about Bill Duke.
Great guy.
And being like, he's like one of the great theater actors. And it's like funny to put him in a movie like this, doing this. But like, he can give you so much more than you need. And he said, it's like weird acting in a movie like this because it's not like proper dramatic performance in an obvious way. There's something about acting on film that isn't quite acting. It's like visual music is the term he uses. And he's like, all of filmmaking is like visual music, and like acting on camera is more about like conveying some feeling than it is like communicating a specific like characterization in certain ways.
Interesting.
And he said, it's a reason why I love in a lot of my movies to have characters who speak in foreign languages and not subtitle them. And he's like, because if you do that, the audience only pays attention to the way in which the actor is saying it and not what they're saying. And I think the former is always more important.
Cool. I like that.
And he just talked about Bill Duke as a visual music
Until the
actor.
Hunt for Red October when he's like, okay, hold on.
And very pointedly is like, which is so funny. But the visual music thing, he was just like, Duke gets it. Like him being an actor and a filmmaker, he understands like what color he needs to be in the palette.
And Duke gets the most like metaphorical representational scenes in the movie too. Like when he spirals over Blaine's dead. I love the reveal that like him and Blaine were best friends. Like it's such a funny thing.
But he's basically making this point of like Duke is giving the most grounded performance in this movie, and yet there is nothing naturalistic about what he's doing.
That moment where he's like stripping his clothes off, singing songs like about to die, and it's like so crazy, but it feels like it feels so elevated. He brings it's like having like one guy in the band who could like solo really well. It's like let's let Bill Duke. We'll roll on him. We got the rights to this song. He'll be fucking weird, and it's like I'm in. I'm on fucking board. His death is heartbreaking.
It's the saddest one because he's the one that has some sort of deeper pathos, you feel.
Yeah.
And then you have this ending where like, it's funny for how much of a meme Get to the Choppa is. It's like, oh, they do say it 800
They say
times.
chopper so many goddamn times that you are like, which one is the meme? I don't even know.
Because especially because they wisely removed the sort of extended double cross element of it.
Right.
You're like, then the movie just becomes, everyone needs to get back to the chopper. There is one objective. Chopper, 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 chopper. And like, what a good word to hand over to Schwarzenegger.
Oh, it sounds so good.
And let him make a meal out of.
Yeah. Choppa.
But yeah, just like they're getting away. Anna's in there. They see the explosion. They go back around. They get him. And he's just there with like the fucking 1,000-yard stare of like.
That's so fucking cool. It's good acting by fucking A-Man there too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you hard cut to fucking curtain call. Every guy doing
this
their,
is
like,
my fucking
every movie needs to end like this.
Yes, I don't care if the movie is a Hungarian art movie about leprosy.
Okay.
I want actors giving a thumbs up to the camera with their character names underneath.
Can I tell you the fucking mind blower? This is the very end of the commentary, obviously. McTiernan drops this. And I thought I was having a disassociative episode because this is what I would write. This is what I would force into existence. And I can't believe I didn't know this and had never known this unless I had forgotten it. He said, I felt like the ending was so down and I wanted it to be down.
It's a tough ending. Yeah.
Right. But like the movie was fun at a certain point, and I don't want the audience walking out bummed. So I wanted some spiritual way to remind everyone like, hey, remember, this was a fun movie. It was a popcorn movie. So he was like, I had this idea originally that as Dutch is in the chopper getting away, he looks into the sky and their faces are all superimposed in the sky.
Oh shit. Force ghosts.
Right. But like bullet dodge, right?
Yeah. Smart.
And he was like, it felt like overly sentimental and romantic. And I couldn't really like justify like, what am I actually saying here visually? Are they in heaven? Like, I don't like the sort
Thank
of
you, Dutch, for avenging us.
extrapolations from it. And it was going to be a complicated effect shot. And he was like, and weirdly, the movie I stole this idea from, how I ended up doing the end credits, David. Do you know what I'm going to say?
No.
McTiernan fucking name drops Brewster McCloud.
Wow.
Oh shit.
My favorite
never
movie
would have
of
guessed
all
that.
time. One of the most like bizarre left-handed movies ever. The movie Robert Altman makes after MASH, and his like crazy blank check that like goes down in flames that I made Ben and David see a couple of years ago at the Metrograph. Movie I love.
It's
Yeah,
weird as hell.
Deeply weird
It's
movie.
weird.
I believe it. It's
But-
Griffin's favorite after
Yeah,
all.
yeah, it's some normal shit. But most of the characters in that movie die across the running time.
Yes.
And it ends with a final death, and there's just the silence, and then it becomes a 3-ring circus, and every actor you've seen in the movie is brought back to life in a guise of a different circus performer.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And they like the announcer announces them one by one and lets them do their little curtain call direct to camera. And McTiernan
Wild.
was like, that I'm just gonna fucking steal from McCloud, which obviously came out 10, 15 years before this movie. It's not like he had just seen it.
Right.
But he was like, you know what ending's always stuck with me? Which is the weirdest inspiration. But he was like, that's so easy and so cheap. Just fucking tack it on to first unit filming. That anytime we have a down moment with the guys, we're just like, hey, just like turn to camera and do your sort of introduction.
Dude.
What's your bit? You want us to throw you a gun? You want to look up from the comic book? Do your like sitcom opening and just break the fourth wall and do this like, hey, we want you to know we had fun time making this movie.
But I'm
We
an
hope you had a
actor
fun
and I
time
didn't
watching
actually
it.
die.
Right.
Don't worry. Yeah.
It's all pretend. The Predator's not real.
Yeah.
I
They
swear to
should
God,
let the Predator do a final.
I really picked up on this viewing that I think the film Predator explained to me what movies are. Like, I feel like I was so obsessed with this movie. Like, in my head, every movie should end with that credit sequence.
Yeah.
Every movie should have like big buff guys that like greet each other. Like, and I was just like, and watching it this time, I'm like, this is why I think every movie should end like this. Just because Predator fucking like imprinted on me like Renesmee. What?
Yeah, Predator imprinted on you like Renesmee.
Yeah. Predator
I got a
is
new tattoo idea.
your Renesmee and Predator is your Jacob.
Jacob's a predator.
He is a predator. David,
Yes.
I got a problem. I got a big issue.
What's that?
Well, when I'm looking for hand-selected, great cinema from around the world, I go to Mubi. I go to our friends at Mubi. I pull up Mubi.
We love Mubi.
That solves that problem for me.
Yep.
I got an unrelated issue that I don't think Mubi can solve.
What's that?
I don't know how to have sex.
Okay, listen.
I'm looking and listening.
Look, this episode is brought to you by Mubi, of course.
It is.
And they are presenting the new film, How to Have Sex.
Well, wait a second.
Which won the In Certain Regard Prize at the Cannes Film Festival. And it follows these three British teenage girls on a rite of passage holiday where they're drinking and clubbing and hooking up in the streets of Malia, in Greece.
Feature debut from rising British filmmaker Molly Manning Walker, notably the cinematographer of Scrapper, one of your favorite movies of 2023.
An excellent film. But I do want to warn you that this is not really about how, like, the sex being had is often actually, quite, sort of complex and problematic. And it's, it's about difficult situations that evolve. Like, it's definitely not a manual or anything like that.
It's not an instruction manual, but it's a film that I would enjoy watching.
It's a vibrant and authentic depiction of the agonies, ecstasies, and ride or die glory of young female friendship. It's a good movie. I've seen it.
I mean, it sounds like my kind of thing.
BAFTA nominee for British Film of the Year. It was at Sundance. It was at Cannes. It's gotten incredible reviews, and it's playing in theaters. And it is a cool movie to see in theaters because it is very sensory. It is, you are partying with these girls. Like, it's about this sort of crazy, sort of like overwhelming scene that they're in. So it's cool to be, locked in a theater with it, obviously.
Is Dr. Ruth still alive?
I believe Dr. Ruth is still alive.
Man, I'm definitely going to watch this film. It sounds right up my alley, but I'm also just like, I got to tackle this other
She's
problem on this side.
95, so you want to give her a call soon. But How to Have Sex is now playing only in theaters. Visit Mubi.com/How to Have Sex, one word, to see showtimes and get tickets. That's Mubi.com/How to Have Sex. This film came out in June 12th, 1987. It was a big hit. Made 60 mil domestic, 100 worldwide. It cost about 15, so everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Reviews were bad. Janet Maslin called it grisly and dull.
It is wild how dismissive the reviews are.
No, it's not. It's the 80s, bro. You have to think about, like, the critics of the 80s were born in, like, the 30s, they don't want to see Predator.
I was not expecting anyone would respect this on an intellectual level, but they're also just, like, boring.
Well, yeah, that's untrue.
Right.
Like, that is, I understand going, like, not a lot of depth. I mean, you can find it if you look for it, but I can understand all the fancy critiques, but I can't imagine you watch this movie and go, like, it's kind of boring.
I guess I'm also, like, unfairly comparing this to RoboCop and Terminator, which were a little more sophisticated on their face, and both got reviews where people were like, this is actually better than it should be.
Well, yeah, those movies
are a little
highly
richer
metaphorical,
texts.
right? Whereas this is, Arnie versus
the reviews on those two movies.
This is a fucking cheeseburger.
Yes.
And we were previously talking about
It's the
steaks.
world's greatest fucking cheeseburger.
Oh, sometimes you want a fucking cheeseburger.
no,
Most of the time,
exactly.
you do.
Most
Most
of
of
the
the time, you
time.
don't need a steak.
Michael Wilmington in the Los Angeles Times says that the script is arguably one of the emptiest, feeblest, most derivative scripts ever made as a movie motion.
I'm like, this
major
is a
motion
perfect
picture.
script. Even if I don't expect him to praise it, to be like, this script has nothing going for it, I'm like, it is perfectly structured.
Yeah, and that guy's fucking jokes on you, dude. It's like 15 of the most quotable lines of all time.
Right.
Yeah.
No one will ever remember anything written for the film Predator.
He also says there's no need to Mad Magazine parody of this. It's already on the screen. Well, they did one, and it's funny, and I own it.
Yeah, and the script knee wasn't going to come out of McTiernan's pen.
Exactly. Schwarzenegger, of course, never does a Predator sequel in all the years.
No.
He's done many other sequels.
The Lawrence Fishburne role in Predators was made for him.
Oh, that makes
Unsurprisingly.
sense.
That
Makes
movie
total
was
sense.
pitched in the 90s by Robert Rodriguez and we bring Arnold back, and he's the survivor.
Man, that would have been cool. I mean, Fishburne is bananas in that movie,
He is.
and I love it.
It is just kind of, maybe it might be the wrong moment in the bell curve when that movie came out in terms of like Schwarzenegger's legacy, and he had just left office maybe.
Right. Because now he's doing I feel like we can get, I mean, we are getting like triplets, right? Is that one of the rumors?
Well,
or is that still like a bit?
That's
that Eddie
been
Murphy
long
is,
rumored.
Yeah, that Eddie Murphy's going to play the third genetic
which
brother.
was being written by Josh Gad at a certain point.
Hell fucking yeah,
Yeah,
Gad.
but also Ivan Reitman was supposed to direct it, who has now sadly left us. And it was supposed to be Eddie Murphy, but then Eddie Murphy passed. Their pitch for triplets has always been, what if the third guy was black? That is the beginning and the end of their pitch. And then at some point they were like,
not at one point could it be a girl.
No. Their pitch is just what's the next least likely in this SAT pattern.
Right.
So it was like Eddie, and they kept on being like, he won't commit, but we think we're gonna get him. And then at some point they're like, we give up. We're gonna do it with Tracy Morgan. And we're gonna do it, and we're ready to do it, and Ivan Reitman's gonna direct it. And then Ivan dies, and then now I don't know where it stands.
If he's looking at his checking account right now, he's like, we could do First Grade Cop. We can do, like he's just looking through his shit and it's like, I'll fucking do a legacy sequel for anything. Like he's clearly down to still be in a Terminator movie, which is like upsetting and kind of.
He might have finally ended that. I think
so. He's got it.
He tried two different versions of I aged naturally as a Terminator. And it's like, okay.
And we'll talk about this on Patreon, but I think Dark Fate is a good final.
I think he's good in both
for that
of those
performance.
movies.
Yeah.
But the
but if
movies
he came back, I don't know. As much as we're saying the model for Predator is Prey, and they should just keep doing that. If they could find the right way to bring Dutch back,
it'd be
we'd
fucking
be
awesome
hooting and hollering.
Well, the real legacy sequel I want him to do is King Conan.
Yes,
he can do it.
Yeah,
he should do it.
Yeah.
Just like an aged, like his last hurrah defending his fucking
I just
people
want
or
him to
whatever.
do stuff and not just action movies. I'd like him to try stuff. I just want to say about Predator 2. He's like, they come to me. McTiernan is now too expensive because he's made Die Hard and Red October, right? So his fee is too high. So they hire the guy who did Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Stephen Hopkins.
Yeah.
Who is like, he's had his moments.
Solid journeyman.
And Joel Silver is like, come on, like we got the director, let's go. We did this before. And Schwarzenegger told him like, the script is set in LA. No one wants to see this. No one wants predators in downtown LA. Like, gang warfare is a serious problem. Like, you don't need to bring extraterrestrials into this. He's right. And that movie sort of flopped.
And Arnold makes even less sense than Danny Glover.
No, it's kind of like
you almost need a black guy if you're going to bet it against the race.
That movie.
And the best thing that movie has going for it is like, Glover's kind of interesting to place at the center of this.
Right.
He's giving a very different type of performance. It's a very different type of hero. If it were that same story with Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Dutch again.
Yeah, Dutch is now a police sergeant.
Yes.
I retired.
I just love LA. I need to keep it safe.
I'm a coppa.
So get to the coppas.
Funny.
I don't know.
5 comedy points.
Sure.
Funny.
I'm here for it.
This film is opening number 1, Griffin, to a healthy $12 million
we did
June.
this weekend already?
We did. What's number 2? Also new this week. A film we've covered.
87?
Yes.
Also new this week.
Yes. Do you want a clue?
Give me the distributor of the picture.
Warner Bros. The Bros, I call them.
Give me the distributor. I fucking love this podcast.
Thank you.
This is Fox.
Do you want a clue? Yeah. How about who's the head of marketing at the time? Like, what? That helps you?
It's not Beyond Thunderdome, is it?
No, but correct director.
Oh, is it Witches of Eastwick?
The Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, yeah.
Opening to a fairly healthy $9 million.
What a fucking weekend.
I asked distributor, and I thought about the year, and I singled in on it's probably a George Miller if it's a
You
Warner
did.
Brothers, and we've covered it from this time period. That was the only clue I needed. I was one
What
film
a
off.
fucking weekend. Predator. And it used to be, let's make America great again, folks.
I'm
Like,
going to
come
put
on.
this forward. Was this the original Barbenheimer weekend?
Oh, fuck.
Predawick.
Predators of Eastwick.
Number 3 at the box office, a film we will cover one day, a sequel, an action sequel
An action
to
sequel.
a gigantic hit.
Will we cover it on main feed or
Main
Patreon,
feed.
you think? This is, okay, so it's a main feeder.
One
And
day
is it
I'm
the
going to
same-
insist we do this guy.
Did the director only do this sequel?
Correct.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, and it's a 2.
Yeah.
It's a deuce.
Dos.
Okay, so director only did a 2. You're going to insist we cover this
I
guy.
believe it is the only sequel he ever made.
And it's just someone else's film.
Yeah. And we'll also do the original in a different director's miniseries. But we won't do the third.
We won't do the third?
No. We won't be doing that one.
Is it like a radioactive movie or is it just like who gives a
Radioactive
shit?
director.
Radioactive director.
I think I know what it is.
What do you think it is?
Is it Beverly Hills Cop 2?
That's correct.
Oh.
Again,
We're
can
gonna
I
do
repeat?
Breast, and I'm going to insist on Tony Scott, but no,
Landis doesn't
Mr.
have-
Landis.
Very,
There's the door.
very, very good poll, Gabrus.
I have to
Way to
say,
get that out.
just repeat myself.
Yeah.
What a fucking weekend.
Oh,
Seriously.
Imagine that marquee.
Just
That's
wait,
like
wait for number 4.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Number 4 is fun too. We'll probably do this guy one day. More of an established big auteur.
It is wild that's his only sequel. Yeah, he never did sequels to his own movies.
He never did another sequel.
Yeah.
He's so fucking good. One of my
What do you?
favorites.
It's a historical drama thriller.
It's a historical drama
It's
thriller.
kind of the most mainstream movie this guy ever made. Well, no, that's not true actually. But maybe at this time,
director. You're saying that
Yes.
the director made?
director, kind of a famous freak.
He's kind of a famous freak.
He kind of is. We just interviewed one of his leading ladies yesterday. You and I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We at the time of recording this, Gabrus, yesterday, we talked to Amy Irving
Ooh, excuse us.
as an episode to accompany our Yentl episode.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's one of his.
Yeah. Who did she collaborate with?
De Palma.
So it's a Brian De Palma movie.
And is it Untouchables?
The Untouchables.
Okay, there we go.
Holy
There we go.
shit.
I mean, like, Jesus.
Wardrobe by Giorgio Armani. Fucking hell, man.
That movie. That's another one
Imagine
where
that is one of the iconic fucking credit when it just says wardrobe by Giorgio Armani
I
on that
have said
movie.
this before on the podcast, but you read the reviews of that film that are not rude, but are like, yeah, it's like fun popcorn for dumb kids.
Right.
And then you watch the credits and you're like, Suits by Armani, score by Ennio Morricone. And you're like, these are the highest level people in the world
I know.
making you a period
I know.
piece.
And people were like, boring. Last Emperor, please.
they weren't like boring. They were like
they weren't like boring. You're right. They were just like, yeah,
They were like,
sure.
this is
De Palma
bubblegum
did some
pop.
fun trash. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you release this, it would be like only at the Cinema Village.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sort of joking.
Just like a critic to bring a knife to a gunfight.
We're going to talk about that man's accent work soon.
It'll swim up your urethra. I can't like the medicine. That's all I remember from that movie.
Oh,
Careful, it'll
I'm
swim
excited.
up your urethra.
We're going to do 2 Connerys on this
Yeah.
feed.
Oh,
this is another great thing about McTiernan. 2 Connerys, 2 fucking Schwarzeneggers.
Yes.
2 Bruce,
Yes.
a Banderas.
A
You get
Banderas.
Sam Jackson with the second Bruce.
2 Pierces.
Yeah.
Right, 2 Sam Jacks.
Travolta.
1 Travolta.
A Chris Klein.
You gotta climb.
Basic low-key slaps. It's like my kind of movie. I love
I'm pumped for
flashbacks from
Basic.
court
I've
case
heard this
movies
from
and
other
shit.
pumped
people.
for Basic.
I've heard
I'm not
this from-
pumped for Rollerball.
No.
I'm
No,
pumped for Basic.
I've
That
heard this
is
from other
a
people.
completely reasonable feeling.
I'm getting excited at the notion, not to overhype it, the Basic will be like the Quick and the Dead of this series.
Yeah, it was
God.
just like, hell yeah.
The Quick and the Dead, when we did that on Action Boys, was the first time I had seen it too. And I was like,
That
what
movie's
a
great.
fucking movie. I'm like, Sharon Stone, turns out she's amazing at movies.
Everyone should talk about that movie every day.
Number 5 at the box office is a horror film that I had
Okay.
probably not heard of, and Alex Rossberry probably texted me afterwards being like, how do you not know this movie?
Yelled at you about it.
Yes.
Oh, when we previously covered
Like
this
the,
weekend.
right. That probably happened to me already. I still don't really remember this
Oh,
film.
it's too late for burnt offerings.
No, it's not Burnt Offerings. It's a
Right.
John Schlesinger movie
Oh, okay.
starring Martin Sheen
Ooh.
about a New York psychiatrist who finds that a child sacrifice cult has an interest in his son.
Is it called like Blanker?
No, it's got a really boring name.
Is it called Danger Zone? No Man's Land.
It's got Robert Loggia in it, and I bet he doesn't like that cult one bit. Lieutenant Sean McTaggart.
Does
the
it
name of
have
his
a sort of
character.
off-the-shelf title that could apply to 20 movies? Okay.
It's called The Believers.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Never was going to
Never
land
gonna
on
get
that.
that. You've also got Harry and the Hendersons if you want to see Predator in another role.
Talk about big haul weekend.
Seriously. You've got Ernest. He's gone to camp,
Oh.
This is the first one. This is the start of a major franchise.
right? You've got Platoon.
Mhm.
Last year's Best Picture winner, still hanging around like 8 months later. Michael J. Fox and The Secret of My Success. And a film called $1 Million Mystery. What is that?
Ooh, I don't even know that one.
It's a film released with a Okay, glad
That's
I
a
looked
gimmick,
this up.
right?
Glad I looked this up.
Yeah.
1987 American film released with a promotional tie-in for Gladlock brand garbage bags. This was the final feature-length film directed by Richard Fleischer, the
Whoa,
legendary
yes.
Golden Age director.
And did Conan the Destroyer?
It was
and
shot by Jack
Amityville
Cardiff,
Horror? Yeah.
maybe the greatest cinematographer in
For my
cinema
money,
history.
I'd say number
Holy
one.
shit.
Yeah.
It has an ensemble with like Eddie Deason, Rich Hall, Kevin
they got
Pollak.
the D's in this
They got
movie?
Deason. Tom Bosley is in this motherfucker. It's sort of like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, but with garbage bags. I don't really know.
Okay.
The cover of the movie, the poster is a garbage bag, like with millions of dollars in it. But
Was there like a
nonetheless.
tie-in contest where people could win money? I feel like there's some movie that
Dino
did
De
that.
Laurentiis conceived with the idea. Dino De Laurentiis, a man who always puts art over commerce, when he visited New York and saw a row of people lining up for what he thought was a movie, but it turns out they were buying lottery tickets. So Glad Bags sponsored a sweepstakes. When you watch the movie, you would fill out a form with your answer as to where the last million would be hiding, given based on clues given in the film. And if you won, I guess you got some money. I don't know.
Right, so it was meant to be
has
a
a
contest.
0% on Rotten
It's like
Tomatoes.
a scam. It's so funny. It's like a scam.
Yeah.
It's like we can get people to watch the movie by offering them money, and then when they watch the movie, we're actually just advertising to them. It's like, fuck you guys. It's like fucking Bullet Train.
De Laurentiis said, "This is a really broad comedy with car chases designed for young movie-going audience. The sweepstakes gives us the potential to reach more people. People more interested in winning $1 million than in going to the movies. And these are the kind of people who use Glad Bags," he's decided.
Two things. So 3 things. This is like the real Coupon the movie,
Right.
right?
essentially,
It's
yes.
Garbage Bag the movie.
Yes. It's about garbage bags.
2,
Man, that's like Spinal Tap level reviews you could write about this.
2, it says the winner of the contest ended up being a 14-year-old girl who successfully guessed that the loot was hidden on the bridge of the nose of the Statue of Liberty.
Okay. All right. That's where it is. Good for her.
3, much in the way Ben and I often talk about the Simsism of a sensitive, nuanced performance when you're describing absolutely bananas, ham sandwich bullshit performances for actors. I think Blank, who always puts art above commerce, needs to be another go-to Sims line when talking about the great heroes of cinema.
I love Caddy Sims.
I just love it. Like, people are like, Dino, please give me money to make this art movie I want to make. And he's like, I got my garbage bag movie lined up this year.
So much of the Schwarzenegger documentary.
We're gonna get Tom Bosley for it.
The Schwarzenegger documentary is 3 parts. It's athlete, actor,
Sure.
American.
Uh-huh.
And the American part is so much Schwarzenegger just fucking dunking on Dino De Laurentiis for just talking trash about him and being like, I will never ever produce a movie that you star in. I hate you. You're not a movie star.
Nothing makes Arnold feel better than the fact that he blew
Loves
past
doing
him.
fucking laps around
Yeah,
Dino
it's
De
so
Laurentiis'
awesome.
Right.
grave.
Oh, good for him.
Good for him. He outlived him.
We're done.
Predator
Oh man, holy shit!
rules.
guys.
Can't wait to watch it
Long-ass episode.
again.
I
It's Predator.
I'm not complaining.
I
Good.
downloaded it to my iPad to watch. It came here
Yeah.
this morning when I was watching it. It says 2 days left. I
Oh.
re-downloaded it because I might have to be watching it again soon.
Here, I mean, look.
you should just buy Predator. That's my advice.
Here's
to you.
another thing I'll say.
I own it on DVD. I'm in this situation in my life where all my DVDs are in storage, so I
Oh,
keep
no.
having to buy movies from that I definitely own somewhere.
Well, here's another thing I'll say. This was a formative movie for me as a teenager, right? My friend Lucky tipped me off. I rented it and Alien the same night
Holy
from
shit!
Couch Potato Video across the street and was like, I should fucking dig in. A night I think about like being as important as me losing my virginity and far less uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, 20 years earlier.
Absolutely. 40. If my projections are correct.
Yeah. Well, by the time of the recording, we could always.
Hey, knock on wood.
Hi, this is Ben Hosley cutting in to say Virgin Watch was still going strong with Griffin Newman.
I think I'm going to have a big February. That's all I'm saying. I'm thinking I got a big February in store. But I watched these two movies and it blows my fucking mind. And I watched Predator so many times I'm a teenager. And it was like kind of a real gateway action movie for me where I was, this is what I fucking want out of movies. Like what you're saying. And had the DVD, the 2 discs that had the If It Bleeds, all special features I watched obsessively. I put this on last night and I was like, have I not seen this movie in like
in full, right?
15 years? Why is that? And I realized this is a movie that notoriously had the worst fucking home video transfers from DVD on.
Yes,
They
yes.
released it like 4 times on Blu-ray with like crazy waxed, like digital noise reduction to take out the grain where everyone looks AI'd. Like the movie was only
Gross.
available in forms that looked like Midjourney for so long. And if you were streaming it or renting it, it was the same version.
Right.
And
You
they
get stuck
only
with that
corrected this
version.
like 4 years ago. So there were years where I just had the DVD and I was like, still not upgrading it. Still not fucking buying it on iTunes because I refused to give money to the shitty version. And I just, like, when they finally fixed it, I bought it and I just hadn't watched it since then. And I put it on last night and I was like, oh, I went from VHS to DVD to now watching it in 4K for the first time in 15 years. I'm like, the fucking cracks in the mud. I've never seen this shit before.
So
The movie
awesome.
looks incredible.
It does. It's a beautiful movie.
Rule.
Shout out Donald McAlpin.
I'm so honored to be here, guys. I can't believe this is my 5th fucking time, and it's like talking about one of my favorite movies
Incredible
of all time.
canon.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's just too bad that he had to follow this up with, oh, I'm seeing Die Hard
Check
and
the
The
notes
Hunt
here.
for Red October were his two follow-ups to this film.
What a fucking
What a
era.
maniac.
The most absurd 3-movie run.
Although the next movie we're going to watch is Medicine Man. We're actually jumping to his
In record
weird
order.
one.
Oh man, that's almost like, hey, what's over there? It's like, no,
Don't
we're
worry
going
Get out
over
of
here to
here.
medicine.
You don't want to see.
Sorry, we're going to the jungles to study spiders with my mom.
Ben, just because I know Predator is one of your main guys, one of your main artistic influences, before we end the episode, I want to give you the space if there's anything you want to say about the dude.
He loves bones. We haven't really, the man likes a skull.
I mean, he collects them.
Yeah, it's kind of Ben
I like when
Bosley
he's like
behavior.
washing them and shit. He's like, he's got to clean his skulls. He's
Well,
like,
yeah,
these
of
are
course.
disgusting.
You mean like a bartender glass cleaner? Maybe he just kind of dunks it in this.
Oh, that would be good.
He's got a skull washer.
He keeps them in like the blue barber juice.
He's kind of a multidisciplinary artist in a
Yeah.
certain way.
Another thing you have in common with the Predator.
Like different approaches to murder.
Different approaches to murder.
Sometimes he's a shuriken guy. Sometimes he's a whip guy.
He's designed his own look, I'm sure.
He's got a look.
I would say this. We didn't really talk about his fashion, the
Mhm.
Predator.
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't.
We didn't.
How could we not?
Rude.
Obviously invisible for much of the time.
Well, right. But when you get to see it,
Yeah.
what a killer fucking fit.
Fishnets and armor.
Yeah.
Fishnets and armor.
Helmet.
The helmet
Fucking-
is so
The Wolverine
sick.
claws.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
A helmet that lets your dreads hang out the back. Wolverine claws. A parrot gun.
Yes.
A fucking arm gun. Like this shit is
Shoulder gun.
fucking awesome.
Nuclear bomb on the wrist.
Yeah.
When he unfurls the whatever, the like spikes, the Wolverine like spikes, but like around Arnie's head.
Yeah, he pulls one in.
He's
to
doing a
knock it.
bit.
Yeah.
And it's good.
He's funny.
Yeah, it's a funny bit.
Do you like how he takes off his helmet too? Like, I love that it's like, and he like unplugs like 4 different like air things, like goes full Vader and reveals that. And then it's like another layer of like, he's more raw and now more susceptible to pain and damage. And you're like, fuck yeah.
And it's also like, you get to see this, bro. Like, you're special.
He's
You're going to
like,
get to see
I'm
my
loving
crazy
this.
face.
I love when he fucking echoes back.
Yeah.
You're one ugly motherfucker. What the fuck are you? And his like gargled.
I'm so fucking hungover.
You did great, Gabrus.
You guys are the fucking best.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Thank you for coming.
Action Boys, everyone should become a janitor.
Yeah, actionboys.biz. And if you're just want to sniff, you can go to free.actionboys.biz, where we have like 10 of our episodes that are out from the paywall. So maybe you get hooked that way.
I told you this months and months ago because animation takes forever, but now it's finally coming soon and will be out by the time this episode comes out. But Gwildor, an important character in Action Boys lore.
Gwildor appears in over 200 episodes of Action Boys, which is crazy.
Made Gwildor merch.
We have Gwildor shirts.
Gwildor is a significant character in the new season of the Masters of the Universe Revolution cartoon I am on.
I cannot fucking wait.
My character Orko, his whole plot line this season is just him fighting Gwildor.
Oh, awesome, dude.
It's just he and Gwildor are like fighting like an old married couple.
On our podcast, Gwildor has become a sort of hothead police officer.
Great.
He's always like, shut the body cameras off.
I think you're going to like, this is a very classic representation of Gwildor. It's Gwildor just as you remembered him. He looks like Gwildor. He sounds like Gwildor.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I can't
it's great.
wait.
A lot of Gwildor. And he's just fighting over like, let me make my sword my way. I like barbecue sauce.
Bye, David.
Bye, David. David has gone to the bathroom and shoved his own head in the toilet.
Came out in a Superman outfit. That was so fast.
Wrap it up.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty, our associate producer on the show. Thank you to AJ McKeon, Alex Barron for our editing, Leigh Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song, JJ Birch for our research, Joe Bone and Pat Reynolds for our artwork. You can go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including our Patreon, Blank Check special features, where, as I said, we're doing Terminators. If you want more Arnie talk, there's a lot of it happening over there on the other side of the Rio Grande. Tune in next week for Die Hard.
Bummer.
Big movie.
Snore. And as always, get to the chopper.
He's talking to Ben to start chopping up this fucking episode. Listeners, stick around. Ben and I are going to do another hour on the...
This is the hidden track.
If you're still here, Ben and I are going to talk for an hour about the Predator's hair.
Like when the action guys go like, "Whoa!" That's always sick.
Yeah, we just have like a full child's conversation.
Exactly. In a sandbox.
Sound speeds.
Okay, ready?
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.